Dynamite download.
AEW 2020. John Silver.
Special event, as you can see, SPD.
For a splashing good time.
I come along, you know. I come along in the ring.
I would not want to. I would not. Welcome to Dynamite Download 2021.
Woo!
In the books, y'all, and what a year it has been. Thank you all so much for joining us. Your guys, the Dukes of Dynamite, we are here, all three in the flesh, and we can't wait to talk about what an incredible, transformative year of AEW television it's been. We've been with you every single week of this journey, guys.
That's right.
Bonds, it has to be kind of surreal. One of the things that you and I have talked about recently, just this week, how much this roster, how much the landscape of this company has changed. As a guy who was our lead writer for a while and has done a lot of, in-depth analysis for us here as a team, this has to be a really fun show for you. Because it gives us a chance to reflect back on this year, and I think that there's a lot for us to reflect back on and chew on. And so getting into tonight's show, I'm looking forward to hearing that. SPD, I know you as the moves guy of our team. You're always loving the high flying, the crazy action.
That's right.
So your top performers of the year and your match of the year are the ones that I'm most geeked about. Can't wait to talk to you about those.
I got some swerves in store for you guys. I'm the graphics guy here and putting everything together, which reminds me, I'll throw up our categories really quick.
No need to get sick. Don't throw it up.
You don't want me?
Not yet.
Okay, I won't.
Dad joke.
You don't throw it
Sorry, I'm transitioning into being a dad, and I have to do the dad joke.
The dad jokes. So we got some great categories this year, and unfortunately, it's not a black tie affair like I was last time.
I know.
I was leaving the ball like Cinderella today, traveling all day, driving in crazy California traffic and weather, and so just made showtime. That's why we were a few minutes late. So Cinderella made it to the ball. SPD is here, cheersing with his Dynamite download mug and a nice adult beverage to go along with this award show. But really, cross comparing, which we'll talk later on, of all of our picks to this year's picks, there's only a handful of categories that kind of almost were the same. It was so interesting to see like our top male athlete of last year and top female athlete of this year and vice versa, and top mic work as well. So like those are some interesting ones that we were it was fun seeing what we picked last year, but no black tie, but we're all here. I love you guys. Great show last night. Thanks for holding it down. And I love when all three of us are here because there's so many different dynamics that we can bring and different perspectives that we bring. And it's just a lot of fun when we're all together.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole crew together brings a whole different dynamic. Going to be a lot of fun to chat with you guys about this. And like you said, man, I mean, we can also bring up some of the things that we thought about going into this year. And that's one of the cool things going back and watching our old show.
Yeah.
For me, it's the roster transformation. Some of the people, like just the difference of star power on this roster is absolutely insane. I can only imagine what it would be like to be a part of this company, to be somebody who has been backstage, who's been somebody who's seen some of this transformation happen. That's been one of the cool things about this last year, us being able to interview some people in the AEW, just getting that behind the scenes look. This company is really making waves in a good way, guys. I know that, we just are fresh off the heels of Tony Storm getting out of WWE. Again, and Dynamite, we just watched the main event featured Undisputed
very
Era,
tough.
which is, really, as a guy here before
That's
AEW was in
bizarre.
existence, I set NXT as the bar in North American wrestling for quite a few years there, and they were really holding it down for true wrestling fans in WWE. Those guys now are part of AEW. And
Yeah.
it just they're another cog in this massive machine that is the AEW
Oh my
powerhouse
gosh.
roster, man.
To say the
It
least.
is a
And
powerhouse
you talk
roster.
about the additions, and one of my favorite things of the year that we did was our draft.
Me too.
And I hope we get to do, with so much new talent, coming into AEW, we got to run it back again very soon, man. It was a lot of fun, and it's fun to see where, it will be fun. And I would say we do it in a month or so, or maybe even 2 months, and see how this will pan out. But if our picks would be the same, like, is Crayfish going to still go, which I think he would, still go heavy on the women's division and so forth. So, and Bonds, would he pick MJF for number 1 overall or what, man? So that draft was
Probably.
a lot of fun. A lot of fun we did. And I think moving forward, we have some of our listeners join in on that draft. Maybe we open it up so it is more strategic. We're digging deep into the depth of the roster, which is so deep. And so if we had 5, 6, 7, 8 teams, you're digging deep, you're scratching. With 3 of us picking, that is,
we can have like a 20-round draft, and it wouldn't be hard. You know what I mean? Like, I know Bonds, like, it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, with how deep this
there were so many names
is.
we left off back then, and
since
then, so many more wrestlers and talents have come to AEW. So it would just be, we would have to do a longer draft. We couldn't do a short 10-round draft again. There's no way.
Right. We will definitely have to revisit that, though. And it's shows like this that feel special because, Dynamite and especially Rampage, AEW packs so much in on one show, right? It feels like there's so much content. It's so fast paced. Yep. And we feel like, man, we have to really compress our conversation because our show can be as long or longer than Dynamite if we let it, right? And so we feel like we've been trying to get more into a rapid pace, trying to keep things light. But, dude, a show like this allows us all to just kind of sit back, have a beverage. SPD, I know you've been running like a madman. Just kind of sit back, hang out, and actually just talk and reflect on what happened this year, what worked for us, what we are most excited about going into the new year, and what fuels our fandom. And I think this also allows some of the regular listeners to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and get to know who are the stars, what are the matches that really fuel the fandom of SPD or Bonds or Crayfish. Who are those stars? What are those matches? We can sometimes gush about so many of the talents on this roster that I think it's important that we have a show like this where we can really just be real with everybody and say, like, this is who I love. This is the match or the feud or whatever it is that I love. And here's why. And I think that the more authentic we can be in shows like this, 2022, if you're following along, you're hanging out with us, it's going to be fun for you to see the ride that we go on and understand why we picked who we picked and maybe get a better taste as SPD, get a taste of what, because this is a grind, fellas. I mean, we do this every single week, right? And the people who hang with us, those who are loyal listeners, know it takes a lot of juggling for us to make this all happen all the time. And we love we love the fan base. We love talking with everybody about it.
It's great.
But this will be a fun opportunity for us to just kind of get real and laid back. I can't wait. I honestly can't wait to see your guys' picks. I don't know who you picked. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's some definite surprises.
That's going to be epic
for sure. I'm excited to elaborate on hear you guys first and foremost, but elaborate on some of my in-depth ones that I think are going to shock you. And as well as you guys in the chat, we're going to get started shortly, but we got a special guest.
Why don't we get started on a curveball really quick before we dive into our next segment? Before we get into our topics, Brian threw out a great question, and I think maybe we think about this, guys. Marinate on this. Woo. This is not a topic that we have in our card. but certainly one that maybe we could add to it going forward, and one that we
I know
can talk
when to
about
bring
tonight.
this up. I know when
like
to bring
this.
this up. So
I like
it's
this
a
one a
great
lot.
topic for sure. Yes.
So let's start thinking about that, and let's
Yep.
make sure that we integrate that maybe into our answers later tonight. I know that's a little bit of a curveball, fellas, but why
Right.
not, right? It's a great question, and man, are there a lot of candidates? And that's one of the things going through all of these topics. There are a lot of candidates. Good thing we're getting some outside help to get some clarity on who should win. We're going to be talking to a guy who's been in AEW on their roster, in the talent. He's had matches on this show. Mike Magnum, the starving artist, a guy who we really have loved interacting with. Those of you out there who are in our circle have to be kind of in the Venn diagram, overlapping and interacting with Mike, because he's such a positive, great guy, always encouraging everybody on social media. Genuinely, Mike, it's really great to finally get the chance to talk to you. Because you're an inspiring guy, man. We love your story.
Thank you guys so much. I'm very honored to be here, and I appreciate you guys opening up a little bit of time for me. But I really appreciate that, and same goes to you guys, man. There's the wrestling world is desperately in need of good people and inspiring people and positive people. I mean, there are so many of them, but it's like one, that saying, one bad apple, right? So I mean, we try to just prevent that apple from coming in and just keep encouraging each other, man. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's, as we've seen it as of late. Unfortunately, Cody Rhodes and Jade kind of getting bullied off of Twitter and stuff. It's very unfortunate. It's more common than not that you see that clickbait of the negativity. Is almost more appealing for people to get that negativity clickbait. And so, to stay true to our goal since day one and being positive and uplifting others, uplifting the talent, even if it's not a match or if there's a botched move or something, don't focus on that. There's so much more within a match and within a storyline that you could focus on and draw out of it versus, oh, this person fell or they missed this spot. Like, that's so easy to do. But to reflect and to uplift, as I keep saying, on certain parts of that, it's more fun, it's more rewarding, and in the end, it makes the product and fans look better, in my opinion.
Sure. It's funny too, because it's like, I was guilty of it and still am, but a lot of times when that stuff happens, I mean, there's obvious botches and stuff, and we could laugh at them later on as long as they get hurt. But it's funny how many times that stuff happens and you beat yourself up and you realize like nobody knew you messed up besides yourself and your opponent. And sometimes not even your opponent if it's something so small, but it also,
that's a thing that happens in life, right, Mike?
I mean, and you're like, you're beating yourself up, then you go back and watch it or you show it to a friend and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Exactly. So there's even that. I mean, even just, the guys getting bullied off of Twitter and this and that, but even just there's a lot, and maybe I'm speaking just for me, or even if there's one person that can relate, I do it to myself. I bully myself, and there was so long where I did that to myself to a point where there was a time where I stopped wrestling for a while, and so it's just so important to, sometimes I'm putting those tweets out or those posts out for myself, just as much as everybody else. Right. So it's important to stay positive for just as much for your own mental health as it is for encouraging others around you, for sure.
That right there, Mike, you're so authentic, and to be vulnerable and to share that, like, hey man, this positivity thing, sometimes it's I have to speak that into the universe, or I have to speak that into existence as a reminder for myself, because we can oftentimes allow those outside voices, the noises, all that stuff that happens in our world to get into our heads, and we can then become our own worst enemy. And that's one of the things I love so much about your journey, is because, I'm a big guy and I've struggled with weight most of my life, and being real and raw with you, like seeing how you never gave up, seeing how you have transformed your body, seeing how you have given it your all, truly given it your all. And I know that's part of your starving artist gimmick is, man, I am chasing a dream. This is something that I have a passion for, and I'm going to put everything, all the chips in on the table, because we only got one life to live. And it really is it's a really great story for more people to hear about. It's a great story and here's a testimony of you looking at we talk about it's a cliche, but looking at the value of your days and not taking them for granted. That's something that I'm really excited for you to have that opportunity to share that with your platform and tell us a little bit. And we're going to get into this right now, Mike. I mean, what was your journey like getting to pro wrestling, getting into AEW in particular? I mean, share a little bit about what your journey was like leading up to your debut in AEW and how you got that call to make that appearance.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I mean, I always say, and I tell my kids and anybody that I ever, asks, I mean, anybody who knows me well enough knows I can talk to a telephone pole. Like, I love, just, bouncing off with people. But the most valuable thing you could give somebody is your time. You can earn money back. You can buy new stuff. And, I, for me, before, getting married and having my, my kids and everything else. Yeah. I lived that at a young age. And my time, I gave it all to pro wrestling. And, like anybody else, like there was a lot of ups and downs. There was a lot of questions, a lot of regrets, not so much regrets, but a lot of, questions. Am I going to regret this? Am I making the right move? And there were times where I thought I regretted it and I shouldn't have done it. But, listen, I don't know how much time you guys have, and I could ramp
all the time.
Man, I've I've done extra work with WWE for 7 years before even any of this stuff happened, and I've performed at Madison Square Garden. I've performed in the empty arenas in front of Triple H and Vince McMahon and all the agents. I mean, I could name drop all day, but like everyone, all the things you dreamt about as a kid. And to the point where it was myself, and I mean, he was Biff Busick on the Indies, Oni Lorcan in WWE, but it was myself and him in 2015 at an empty arena in front of Hunter before SmackDown at the Dunkin' Donuts Arena. We put on this match and we locked up and we did maybe 2 things, and the refs like, all right, guys, take it home. And I remember being like, what the heck, man? Like we had, a few minutes. And it was only 2 spots maybe that we did. And we're like, did we mess, in my head, I'm going to mess something up. You could be doing something and you're on autopilot. You're having all these other thoughts. And I just remember panicking. And I remember Biff being like, hey, just keep going. Don't listen, keep going. And I found out later on, that they do stuff like that to see if your body language or your facial, if you're going to panic, because that could happen on live TV. And they also, I found out, later on, D. Malenko was one of the agents watching, and he said that once the guys saw us lock up, they first were concerned we were actually going to fight each other, like we had heat or something. And then they were like, when they realized we were working, they were like, yo, that lockup looked like you guys were going to fight. We didn't need to see anything else. And 3 or 4 months later, we were all at the PC. It was myself, Gargano, Busick, Ciampa, Matt Riddle, Chuck Taylor. It was all our it was myself versus Johnny Gargano, and Johnny Gargano left the ring and they signed him. And they sent me home for some reason. But anyway, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here, so I can't complain. I would have never met my wife. I would have never had my kids. I would have never, this AEW stuff wouldn't have. I mean, who knows? Maybe it would have, but not at the timing it did. And I'm a man of faith, and I believe that God's timing is perfect. And it all happened the way it did, and for a reason. So, man, I started like anybody else. I found a school, and I started training, and I started just going out and trying to get myself booked, and just started doing my thing, and then realized, one day it's not going to fall in my lap like a lot of us think when we first start. And I just started. It's just, man, I did it all. I don't mean to say it. I say I'm a man of faith, and I'm going to say I did it all myself. I mean, God definitely led the way, but I kind of just started networking and figuring out how to contact them. And I harassed the heck out of this poor lady at WWE that I got a name and an email address for.
Sounds like us with the AEW media.
Yeah. But that's what you got to do.
It's working.
Just be pleasantly persistent. And, she eventually was just like, listen, send me your stuff and look at our schedule. And when we're close by, I'll make sure you get in. And the rest, and I without sounding like I'm patting myself on the back, after that, once I got my first shot, I never had to send anybody a message again. They contacted me whenever they were in the area. And 2015, that happened. And then after I got sent home, I kind of just took a break and, I kind of reevaluated. And that's what I was saying before, where I was like, did I make the wrong decision? I gave my whole life to this. And now the company I dreamt to work for, it's crazy how I remember being a kid and sitting up at the top of Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania 20 and being like, man, if I could just touch that ring one day, it would mean everything to me.
Amazing.
And then it was like, I got there and I did that.
You lose that perspective, don't you?
What's that?
You sometimes can lose that, like that,
right.
that emotion that, man, I achieved a dream.
Right.
And sometimes we can do that in life, where when these events happen, you almost like you lose that man, I dreamt of getting to this very place. That's a great perspective by you, man.
Yeah,
I love hearing just your thought process getting to that point.
Thank you. And man, it was crazy too, because I was telling someone else recently, I would used to carry that ticket with me. And when I did the show at the Garden, I went up to the seat. I had kept the ticket and I went up to the seat and I sat in that seat and I just soaked it in. And
that is,
I remember first Raw I did the same thing. I got in the ring. I was about to have my match in front of like Regal. It was like 2011 or 12. And I remember getting in the ring and just stopping and being like, wow, like every one of these seats I probably sat in at one point or another, and
that's
like,
so cool.
It's
incredible.
Just, and like I said, though, then that happened. Right. And I forgot how much I really like the little kid in me, which is the reason, besides my own and my wife, this is the reason I do it. I keep that little kid in me alive. I promised that kid I'd do this. And, despite, having to this day, fractured vertebrae and 9, herniated discs. And I mean, I could go on, that too, but I mean, I can't give up on that kid, man. When I did that match with AEW and I sat down with my wife and watched it, I remember just almost feeling like that little kid was next to me. And I was like, hey man, we did it. We did it. We made it. We got it,
That's so cool.
And that's the most important thing. But I did just to answer your question, I know it's been a little run on, but to answer your question, I did all that, went back home, kind of soul searched, literally came to Jesus and said, man, what am I doing here? Did I do the right thing? I got a little break. Like I said, met my wife and kids. And then when the time was right, I was working for FedEx, man. I was delivering packages and I thought it was done. And, one day I just said to my wife, I'm like, I can't shake that there's still something left. But I needed her support. And to her credit, she was like, you have to go do it then, we're still young. You got to go after it. And, we did it. I started a little non-for-profit called Full Faith Wrestling. And through that, the itch just kind of came back. And, the rest was history. I just kept working. And eventually AEW, I had gotten a few other extra work things with WWE. I was an extra in the back of a few shots of that SmackDown when NXT invaded in Buffalo.
Nice.
Right before the pandemic happened. Then I was I got connected with Glacier, Ray Lloyd, who's one of my best buddies. Like, I don't consider a lot of people friends in wrestling because you have to, but he's like a very good friend and a mentor. And got connected with him, and then I got called to the Thunderdome to do a SmackDown, and I carried Baron Corbin to the ring, and then that was when I kind of listen, not to sound unappreciative. I mean, that all that stuff was a dream come true for a little kid from Long Island. You know what I mean? But then the AEW stuff opened up, and I was able to get the opportunity there, and then I just of course, this is what you couldn't have said it better. I mean, I don't think I could have said it better. The starving artist persona is literally me with the volume turned up, and it really is, and I'm the type of person in real life, like, actions speak louder than words to me. I tell my kids all the time, don't apologize to me, just go change it. Apologies great, but they're words and they go away. Go show me. And that's what I feel like I do with my life in wrestling and even in the gym and everything else. It's like I could talk about it all day and I didn't get anywhere. So I need to just, like any artist, you ask them who they are. They're going to point you to their greatest masterpiece, their finest work of art. They're not going to tell you, they're not going to run on and talk like I'm doing right now. They're going to say, hey, look, this is my greatest masterpiece. This is who I am. So for me, every time I step onto the canvas, that's who I am. That's where I perform. That's where my release comes out of all the crazy. I mean, I think any wrestler would tell you if they can't wrestle at least every couple weeks, or a month or so,
you get that
they're
itch.
going to go nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so much in there that you just want to get out. You watch a match and you're like, oh, you see a guy you want to work with, and the juices go. So it's me. I mean, the starving artist is literally me.
Yeah. And Mike, it's great that you had such an incredible, elaborate, good answer here, because you're giving us some things to chew on and that we want to respond to. Bonds, I saw you smiling when Mike brought up his matches in front of Triple H. And that was one of the things. I know we're an AEW focused podcast, but that was one of the things that going into this conversation with Mike, you were most geeked about, because as kids here in North America, WWE, that was our big bread and butter for a long time growing up. And you wanted to talk to Mike a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so Mike, I know you're a big Triple H fan. We all kind of grew up during the Reign of Terror era. After he was terrorizing, but before he was the guy running the show. And man, like, just how did it, being a fan of him, to go into wrestling after being a fan of a guy like that? I don't know if he was your favorite growing up, but he was one of them. Somebody that I know influenced you. Yeah. It's like, how does a guy like that influence you when you get into the business? Like, you, as a fan of Triple H, you saw how dominant a wrestler could be. Did that change your perspective at all, or did you just kind of have a goal with that, or how did he influence you in that regard?
Yeah, for me, he for a while he ruined what I thought a wrestler should be, because to me he was just right. I mean, in that time, chiseled out of stone, had the coolest entrance, was a big dude, right? Like, so me, I'm like, that's
the coolest guy.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to Adam Rose not long ago. I still keep in touch with him. He was like, man, and we were both agreeing. Like, there were times I would go and watch his entrance from like WrestleMania 17 and 18. Yeah. And I didn't have to watch the match. The matches were awesome, but I'm like, I could just watch that and be done. I was fired up. Like, it didn't matter. He was my guy. He was the guy I studied and wanted to be just like when I was younger. And so I really gravitated towards him. But I made and I know you guys like the story about Madison Square Garden, so I'll tell you another cool one. Just, we relate on that little kid in us staying alive. Yeah. And when I would go to, there was autograph signings all the time at this mall by me, and I would always go and meet everybody. And I promised myself from a young age, I was always a very deep kid. And I'm like, I'm never going to meet Triple H. He's my favorite. He's my hero. And it wasn't because like, oh, don't meet your hero, you might be disappointed. But it was more of like,
he was too big.
I said to myself, I think I was like literally 13, 14 years old. I'm like, I'm not going to meet him because I want to meet him as a peer. I want to meet him as a wrestler. And it was more motivation for me, because I was the type of, as a kid, that was talked about what I wanted to do, but never pulled the trigger. And I'm like, I say to myself, you're never going to meet your hero unless you freaking do this. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was another motivator for me. And he was at a bookstore once by me and a few places I never went. I could have gone, never, just kept that promise to myself. And the first time I met him was that first, I think it might've been the first or maybe second old school Raw that they did. It was in Buffalo, New York. And it was actually my first time doing extra work. That's awesome. I just happened. I'll never forget it. It was two things. The first time I met him was there. And it was like, he walked by me, and I remember I wasn't starstruck by anybody, because at that point I had been doing it a while, and I kind of had been around a lot of legends and people. So, but then when he walked by, I remember it was like I shrunk. And, I remember just being like, holy crap. Like, it was the biggest thing. I'm sorry. But I remember just turning into a little kid, and he was on his phone, and he just happened to look up, and he goes, I was looking at him. He goes, "What's up, man?" And keeps walking. And I was like, wow, holy cow.
Wow.
And then awesome. The second time I met him was doing extra work. Dang, I think it might've been in Albany. Maybe it was a Raw, and he was doing a segment with, Seth Rollins at the time, and he walked off. I was in the background pretending to have a conversation, and he like nudged me into the locker so he can keep going and walk away. I sold it like he, hit me with a pedigree. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then when we had that match, I remember one of the spots I would always do is the shoot off. I would duck down, guy would kick me, I'd stand up, hit the ropes, and I'd do the spine buster.
Yep.
And I remember just naturally it was in that panic of them telling us to take it home with Biff, that he hit the ropes, and I just ducked down. He said, kick me. And he ducked down. He kicked me up, and he came at me, and I just picked him up. Did the spine buster just came naturally? You study somebody enough. We were kind of in the moment. I hit him with the spine buster and I kind of got up and I looked and he's like just leaning on the ring. I swear to you, it was like slow motion. I like hit him and I got up and I was like, oh my God, I just did his spot. Right?
I just took,
yeah. And but I mean, thankfully, after that match, that was the match that got me called down to the PC. And then he was there at the PC because they were setting up for Tough Enough, which was like, I think the week after our tryout.
Okay.
So he was even there too, watching us do the drills and do everything. I ran past him a few times, just like, there was a time where if you told me as a kid I could be within 6 feet of him, I would be like, no way. And now here I am doing all this. And it was just, there is no really like one or two words to describe how I felt. Just that little kid, you know what I mean?
That's
that
awesome.
little
You're
kid
back at
feeling
Madison
thing.
Square Garden.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
The Garden
SPD,
was,
I know that for you, man, you get a chance to talk to Mike about some of the guys maybe in the Triple H is the guy that would make Mike in awe. But there's a lot of star power on the AEW roster. And Mike, we're going to talk to you now about the awards show for 2021.
Yeah.
SPD, you get to talk to Mike about maybe the top guy who would give you that moment, Mike. SPD,
I know.
get into
so
it, brother.
This is our second annual award show night that we're going to dive real deep in later on throughout the night. But we want to get your take from kind of a performer and a fan's point of view. You know, we have a bunch of different categories, but we know AEW's landscape has changed so much over this year, more than any other year so far, and it's continuing to grow. And it must be so fun to be part of. Everyone we talk to just says AEW is a family. It is one of those companies that as the tide rises, everyone rises. It seems that as we have talked to people, and they are uplifting others. You know, everyone says, you know, it doesn't seem like a shoot. It seems genuine. Backstage, you're like, everyone's so welcoming and like they're glad to be here. It's not like a top dog, you know, trying to get to that spot and be there and, you know, secluding everyone else. But that being said, you know, I want to know your top male and top female performer of 2021. You know, think of the whole landscape of the year and the storylines and the work they've both done in and out of the ring. But who would you pick for your top male and female talent of 2021 in AEW?
There really is so many. I mean,
I know
everything you said is spot on, and it's so hard because you could go to so many different places. But from a personal, this is my thing. I gotta go. My guy's got to be Miro. I mean, he's just
great pick.
You know, he's an absolute animal. You know, you walk past him and you're like, that guy's a wrestler for sure. And you know, and that's not to say people that aren't his size or anything.
Right.
You know.
We get it. We get it.
I mean, he's the real deal. He's the total package. I mean, there's times where his promo plays and you're like, man, all those matches were amazing. Those guys crushed it. But like that promo stood out, you know, to me sometimes more than, you know, the action going on. I'm still sitting there thinking about that promo. As entertained as I might be, I'm still thinking about, man, that promo. What did he say? Sometimes like, what did he say?
Especially
like,
as of late,
man, he's calling out.
Yeah, you got to be geeking out with that answer, dude.
Miro
was a kind of a sleeper pick, Mike, and you got some like Bonds is like just beaming ear to ear. He's been pushing the Miro train for a long time. That's fantastic.
Great guy too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
top
awesome
female, Mike.
What about your top female pick?
I'm a huge I love Nyla Rose. I'm a big Vicky Guerrero supporter, fan.
She's so good.
I don't think she would mind me saying I consider her a friend. I mean, she's a wonderful human being. And on top of that, her character, her performance, the way she does things, it's like
fantastic.
I mean, she's a Guerrero, man. She's amazing.
She's an icon in the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I think Nyla's a beast, no pun intended, but having Vicky on her side, I mean, it's just, to me, she's unstoppable.
I always refer to Nyla as the gatekeeper of the women's division, because if you can beat Nyla, you've proven that you belong, right? Yeah. Like she's that level. She's the gatekeeper of that division. I've always said it. 100%. I totally agree with you. Yeah. The pairing with Vicky makes a lot of sense too. Yeah. She's killer on the mic. You know, I'm gonna steal the ball from you here, SPD. I want to know, for me, it's the breakout star of 2021, because we just got done talking about all the new names, all the new faces in the company. But I love that this company also seems to invest in their own talent. Yeah, they have the CM Punks and the Bryan Danielsons, but they also are investing in their own people.
Yeah.
For you in 2021, what is maybe the team or the performer that really broke out to you and made waves?
I mean, you can't not mention, guys like Fuego and
True
guys like Big Shotty Lee, who's, incredibly talented and great guy. But I mean, my guy's got to be. I'm kind of torn. Will Hobbs, I think, is all around phenomenal, and I mean, I love Hook, right? I mean, Hook is. I mean, man, I don't know. I see his dad, but I see his dad with, a little bit of a different twist. Like
2021,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, vibe.
Yeah. So I mean, and he's another one who is putting in, I mean, tremendous work behind the scenes that people don't know about, and genuinely appreciates it. And I've had plenty of conversations with him. Like, he knows what he has and he knows where he's at, and he has full respect for the business. And
that's great.
And he's the real deal, man. I mean, awesome. Really. Yeah.
That's great. This is what we like, hearing the background, like hearing that side of it is so cool. And I think that we should try to start pushing a campaign to get Mike Magnum as another member of Team Taz. I like it. I like it. Even God creates assassins, brother.
Some of my matches on Dark, but like Taz is a tough man to please, and every single match I've had, he's been very kind and.
There you go.
He's
already halfway there.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
Yeah. I ain't gonna fight that.
Yeah, man. I love it.
Powerhouse Hobbs is a great choice too, man.
I still got a little bit of an issue with Ricky Starks, from our match, but I think we can set that aside for this.
Yeah, that's right. It's the holiday spirit. I think we can get
New Year, fresh start.
Yeah, I like that. New Year, fresh start.
Yeah, for sure.
Go, Mike. For me, like I one of the hardest categories that I struggled with was match of the year, because it feels like SPD. He talked about it. Our motto here is buckle up since summer, because it feels like AEW is in overdrive. It feels like every single week that we get new candidates that come up for match of the year.
Yeah.
We're fresh off the heels of a 60-minute classic that I know is tainting a lot of people's view of best match of the year. What stands out to you? Who is the winner to you?
Yeah, that one I would say it, a lot of people I would see too, like every AEW Dynamite seems to be the best AEW Dynamite. Like they just all are.
That's true.
The meme is a reality.
And Brian Danielson said it too. Just I think it was today or not long ago. Like the best part about it is everybody there is hungry, man. Like they all want it. You can feel it. I've been in both locker rooms. Like you can feel the difference. You know what I mean? There's a lot of differences, but that's one of them that you can really. It's almost tangible. But for me, and I was fortunate enough to be in the crowd at Jacksonville at Daly's place for a lot of the great matches that went on. But for me, it was a 3-way tie. I hope that's okay.
Yeah,
of course.
That's fine.
I think Sammy and MJF was awesome. I was
agree.
Me, you could break it down. You could look at everything he did. You could talk about it from a wrestling standpoint, a fan standpoint. But to me, I just watched two young, hungry guys tearing it up, showing what they had, knowing their platform, appreciating their platform, and not wasting it. You know what I mean?
Main event.
Jericho to me is like, I'm blown away by Chris Jericho. I mean, he's and we could talk about that too, like how it was with Triple H, like Jericho. But I mean, the nicest guy. I mean, just came up to me and said, well, he follows us on Full Faith Wrestling. He's a fellow man of faith, and he follows it. Awesome. I introduced myself and told him I was the guy behind that. And I mean, man, anytime I saw him after that, hey, Mike, how you doing? Like, just an amazing guy. And he doesn't age like Billy Gunn. But Jericho and Kazarian, I loved.
Yeah.
I also loved Kazarian and Christian. I got to be in the crowd for that, which was so cool.
Yeah.
But besides those two, I loved Bryan Danielson and Adam Page. I think that 60-minute match was, that was It was great.
Incredible.
I mean,
It
for
was
ours,
as good as it gets.
you know, you
Yeah.
could go back, like you said, and, you know, like the Ric Flair going an hour all the time, but like in 2021 on TV, like, you know, and in that arena and, you know, with all the crazy things going on, it's just for them to be able to do that just from a cardio standpoint.
Yeah.
How could you not? You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, those three for me were just the biggest, you know, standouts in my opinion.
Yeah, we were like taking notes and like texting each other. We're like, wait, it's another commercial break, and then it kept getting closer to 60.
It's gonna
minutes.
go 60.
We couldn't we couldn't believe it. But we had a funny story about Jericho. We were at All Out all weekend in Chicago, and we just happened to be at the same hotel, like we booked it. And we got in the elevator. Jericho gets in the elevator too after one of his concerts, so it was late. And Bowens gets in the elevator. I'm wearing our Dynamite Download shirt, and he goes, "Hey, Dynamite guys," or "Hey, Dynamite Download. What's up?" And then Jericho goes, "Who's Dynamite Download?" And I'm like, "Jericho, you've retoasted us before." And he's like, "Oh." And then just gets out of the elevator.
Jericho is insanely funny. Yeah. Insanely funny.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
man,
my parents have had the opportunity to
Yeah.
be in the suite with Jericho at Jacksonville, and they say the same things. Just genuinely down to earth for being one of the icons in the last, like, honestly, 30-year career. Being one of the standout top guys and an icon that has been able to transform himself as the industry has changed. Jericho is fantastic, man. It's a great call. Bonds,
sure.
getting to you.
Sorry.
I mean, we heard Mike talk a little bit about Sammy versus MJF, and those two guys are part of one of the biggest feuds of this entire year with the Pinnacle and Inner Circle. I know that's a topic that you've been chomping at the bit to talk to Mike about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Mike,
Yep.
there is a lot of awesome feuds, and you got to see stuff like up close in Jacksonville for a lot of the year as well. What was your favorite feud of 2021? Because there's a lot to choose from that were awesome this year.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Yeah.
Programming
that's
on
saying
AEW is
that's
so
the
deep.
year, right? Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh, 20.
You got Elite, you got the inner circle Pinnacle stuff, you got
so much.
the tag team division.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh,
the
my
stuff with the
God.
Nightmare Factory, the Factory, and the Nightmare Family. Like,
I
we're
love
big
that.
QT
And
Marshall
we know
fans.
Mike. We know Mike's a fellow QT boy. I like that,
Yeah,
Mike.
Which
Yeah,
reminds me,
man, I'm
because
a
your
huge fan.
story reminds me of him watching
It
his
does.
documentary.
It does,
He's
yeah.
working at a tool shop and delivering tools, and you said you're working at FedEx. Like,
Yeah.
that story, as soon as you told that story, I was like, that reminds me of that QT Marshall's documentary, and like just consistently pushing, having a supportive wife, supportive family,
True.
and then ultimately, dreams come true.
Yep.
Yeah, man. No, it's funny because I remember talking to Glacier. He was saying him and I when we started talking, he goes, "Man, you remind me so much of QT." And well,
Yeah.
okay, we've been doing it. I've been doing it 15 years, 16 years. Next month. And he was around the same time when stuff started happening. It's funny, but yeah, I love QT. I mean I was in the. I was there when I was in the crowd when that happened. When he turned on them.
Oof, that was
So
brutal.
man. Yeah, you know what? I think that was good. I mean, it was short, like him and Cody's thing. It wasn't a long
Him and a
thing.
go Cody thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I would have to say probably a tie between that and Sammy and MJF just for the longevity of it.
Love it.
And it was great. I mean, they did a great, not just because of that, they did an awesome job with it. And the long-term storytelling
It
too,
was.
like MJF and Sean Spears, sitting in the crowd there in the
Yep.
beginning. And yeah,
That's
that was
really
good.
long term.
And that feels like a feud that's going to last for a long time. Like these
Yeah.
guys are going to be going head to head for
Great
a
point.
decade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But also, Mike, there's a lot of awesome tag teams, and we talk about this a lot.
Love the tag
AEW
division.
is the tag team center of the world, and there's so many good ones to choose from. You could name the top 10 tag teams in AEW, and I think they're the best tag teams in the world.
Yeah.
So, who was
True.
your tag team of the year? Because that's a really tough one.
Well,
Really tough.
I love FTR. I always loved
Yeah.
I
them.
knew I liked Mike.
Yeah, I mean, they're the real deal, man. I mean, I remember sitting and when I was younger, I mean, I still am, but when I was younger, like I was the guy that would have to apologize before I went out because I was very snug and very stiff, and I liked hard hitting because I mean, it's not fake, you know what I mean?
Right.
And what we're doing is legit. And if you could get somebody to come and suspend their disbelief. You go to a movie, right? And you watch a movie, and if the actors are good enough, even though you know it's not real, if the actors are good enough for that hour and a half, 2 hours, you can be sucked in and believe it and get emotionally attached. Difference is they have a bunch of takes and they can try over, start over.
They have stuntmen.
Yeah, and they have all that stuff. Not to devalue what they do, but I mean, with wrestling, you got one shot, one take. It's live, and they're there 100% in disbelieving. They don't believe that anything you're doing is real. They're there to laugh or have a good time or whatever. And if you can get them to go, oh my gosh, that's what this is all. That's the art of it, right? Or using your character and your letting people invest in you, giving them a chance to love you or hate you. And I think FTR does an amazing job of that, as well as I remember being in the crowd for some of their matches, and whether it was a dark with 2 local guys or signed guys, and being like, man, I'm glad I'm not them. I'd love to work with them, but dang, they're hitting hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Dax takes a lot of. Dax was talking about it on Twitter today, like being at the gym and just being like having people come up to him. Oh, that wrestling's not real, right? Meanwhile, his arm is taped and he's working at the gym. I mean, Dax and Cash, you're right. They have that old school ability just to get you emotionally invested in everything they do.
And how many times that's happened to me? It shocks me to this day. People, all ages, like, oh yeah, I used to watch it with my dad or my grandpa. That stuff's not real. Oh, you do that phony stuff, and I'm like, I just like he said, I saw that post. It's like, yeah, it's not real. Yeah, Like there was a point where I would get so fired up, and then I'm like, it ain't worth it, man. Yeah, no, it's not real. It's all fake, no problem.
Yep, we're just a bunch of actors jumping around. Yeah,
right. Them and the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks, you asked me like 5 years ago, and I was on that bandwagon of like, oh my gosh, like they don't know how to work, they can't tell stories, blah. But then as I got to like, I started watching them more, and I started like, seeing them live, especially, and being like, oh my gosh, what these guys are doing is, and not to keep
incredible.
Saying, what these guys are doing is art. They're going and they're working their butts off, and they're doing things that I don't even think I could do on like make a video game character, and they blow me away. So I mean, it would have to be a tie. I know they're 2 completely different, sets of the spectrum, but they
really are.
Yeah.
That's an awesome answer by you, because those 2 couldn't be any more different. Old school and new school. Love that answer, man.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mike, man, this has been a lot of fun. We could talk to you all night, but the way we wind things down, I like to do a fast 5 questions, kind of like your fast answers. But we really appreciate the time you're taking with us. So easy to talk to you. Crayfish is gushing over there. Bonds has got a lot of stuff over there, like a lot of similarities. Fitting well with Dynamite Download. And it's funny, one of our fans in the chat, because at All Out we had one of our friends come who's not a wrestling fan before, but now he is. He had a lucha mask on, and we're like, was Mike the Dynamite guy? Was it him? He's a big guy too, because he was wearing our Dynamite Download shirt.
We'd love to hang out with Mike. The guy is the real deal, man.
Oh, thanks, guys.
No problem, man.
But as you're just talking about the Young Bucks and moves, first fast 5 question is, what move do you wish you could do that you can't do, or have tried, and it's just like it's risk versus reward, things like that? Like, what finisher or move in general you wish you could do?
A lockup. No, I'm just kidding.
What is MJF say? You could beat someone with a side headlock?
Gosh, I've always wanted to be able to do a moonsault. I can do. I haven't had the opportunity yet on this stage. Hopefully, I will, but I haven't had the opportunity. I could do, like some mean stuff off the ropes, but I just haven't had the chance.
Right.
But I've never even tried to do a moonsault.
Yeah.
I've always
wanted scary, to.
Man. I get scared. Once I start to, make that turn, I immediately twist. I just get nervous. So I've tried on a trampoline, but I've never had a shot.
Risk versus reward, and as we saw with one of our favorites here, Lance Archer. What happened with the match with Eddie Kingston? Like, he's done that probably 1,000 times. Yeah. And then it's another big man too. So, but yeah, we always talk like Pac's moveset is insane. The stuff that he can do, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But next question. So, what band would you pick to perform your entrance music if you could pick any band?
Downstate. I love them. And I know Justin, him and I have talked a little bit, and he actually did put together an instrumental for me.
Oh, nice.
So that's a little sneak peek. I haven't told anybody yet.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, I would love to have them. I'm hoping that they're able to complete it. They have the instrumentals down, but if they come through, that'll be a nice gift for the new year.
That's
Awesome.
sweet. Nice.
New year, records reset, new music. All right. Team Taz, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I like it.
You got to
We're
put
putting
it
it all together here,
Yeah.
Mike. I like it.
You never know. You always have to put it out there. What is a hidden talent or maybe kind of like a hobby many people don't know about you or wouldn't expect you to have or you to like?
Not on any sort of big stage or scale, but I love doing magic. Before I got into wrestling, and maybe just because of the smoke and mirrors, it's the same kind of deal. That suspension of disbelief. But yeah, I loved magic. Was my first thing. I love doing magic. Yeah.
Nice.
You don't
I
hear
have a
that
really
every
good-
day. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Really good friend of mine is a very good sleight of hand magician. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but his name's Bill Malone. If you haven't heard of Bill Malone, look him up. He's insane. I'll send you a link in your DMs of one of his famous tricks. It's incredible. He uses the whole deck of cards.
Yeah,
Awesome guy too.
Yeah.
What is your dream opponent in AEW?
Oof. Gosh.
Nice question.
It could be a tag team too, and you could have a tag team partner of your choice if you want to do a tag match or a singles match.
For a long time, I was clamoring for Mike to go head to head with Lance Archer. I thought that would be sick. But Mike, I want to hear it. Go. Who would be your number one? He wants no piece of it.
I like having a little more time with Lance. It wouldn't be very long. Man, that's hard. I mean, Jericho is an obvious one. Miro. I've worked with Frankie Kazarian, but I would love to work with him on that stage.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I could name everybody. Cody.
Just flip
But
through the
I think
Rolodex.
it would have to be split between Jericho and Miro for sure.
Great choices for sure.
That's awesome. Very different.
Last question for the Fast Five, and then we want to hear where everyone can follow you and find out more about you and any upcoming shows or anything like that. The age-old question: is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh my gosh! I mean, it is meat in between bread, right?
Right. Is it its own category? Is it a sandwich?
I don't know.
I've never considered it a sandwich. I don't want to get heat. We've gotten along this whole time.
You're a deep guy, Mike. I want to hear you. I want you to marinate on that question, pontificate on that one. That's deep. That's a deep one. We can have some real heavy conversations about
we
this,
can talk about this for like 6 hours.
Yeah. I can talk to you guys the rest of the night. Oh, that's
great debate.
But yeah,
I love it. Oh man. All right, Mike. So yeah, I mean, everybody knows you're not only funny guy, insightful, down to earth, deep dude with a great story, and somebody who's always trying to lift other people up. Thank you so much for sharing your faith, your journey.
Yes.
And your outlook on life in general, sharing some really cool stories with us too, man. Really appreciate it. Where can people go follow you so they can get a little bit more taste of Mike Magnum?
Big taste.
Yeah. Oh man, everything's Artist Magnum. Twitter and Instagram is Artist Magnum. I got prowrestlingtees.com/SA Mike Magnum. That's my main stuff right now. We don't got. I'm taking a break this month into like the beginning of January. I have nothing coming up. I spend this time just with my kids, my family.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, I know AEW's going to be close by again in February, so keep your eyes peeled. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, they're really just Instagram, Twitter, Artist Magnum, and the Pro Wrestling Tees /SA Mike Magnum is my main stuff. And guys, thank you so much for the kind words. And I encourage you guys to keep doing the same thing. And man, anytime I could hop on here with you guys, I'd love to talk some wrestling with you guys.
That'd be great.
Joining us, Mike.
We'd love to have you on.
Yeah, I hope that we get a little bit more opportunity to do this with you, Mike. This was a lot of fun, man.
And we're gonna put this together and repost it and get some clips of it, and help push Mike Magnum, man. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys, and make sure just tag me in anything and everything.
Of course,
you're the real deal, man. You're the real
you.
deal. But I mean that. You're the real deal, brother. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Likewise, guys. Have a great new year.
Thanks,
you too,
brother.
buddy. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
What a great surprise, everyone. Hi,
was
Thunder
awesome.
in the chat.
Thunder
We are
Rosa
about
just
to
joined
start-
us in the chat.
Yeah.
Wow.
We
that's
are about to,
fantastic.
you guys, that was a fantastic interview. Little surprise that Crayfish put together leading into our Dynamite Download Best of 2021 awards show. Fantastic guy.
Thunder, you want to
learned-
stick around for this one. If
Oh.
you're still in the chat, you're going to want to stick around. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, coming up is we got top babyface, top heel, top female athlete. Kicking things off is the top babyface. So I don't know. So we'll see how it's going. But man, thank you, Crayfish, for making this happen. I know for a while we've been wanting to get Mike on our show. Blew away all my expectations. Really enjoyed this chat. Yeah. And if you guys are just tuning in and missed it, we'll put it back on our YouTube and repost it for sure. But this is the second annual annual. What is that from Dumb and Dumber? Dynamite Download Awards. And here are the categories. Once again, guys, I'm going to throw up the categories, and then we're going to get right into the awards for sure. So we got top babyface, heel, female athlete, male athlete, mic work, tag team, breakout star, match of the year, feud of the year. And we're going to make our predictions of 2022 breakout star of the year. And I know 2021 breakout star of the year. If I know I had that one memorized. We picked Ricky Starks, Wardlow, and Thunder Rosa for breakout stars of 2021. And look where we're at now. And all three are pushing strong, ending the year strong, and had excellent years and a lot of great stuff in store for that. But the first category is the top baby face of the year. So let me get this one up for you. The top baby face of the year. We all had different ones. And so it's very interesting. I like how we all have different points of view, but top babyface of the year awards are there you go, right on cue. So I'll start off really quick. I know Hangman is ending the year on an extreme high. Obviously gold around his waist, gold around his shoulder. But the cowboy shit wave happened so early on, and it was so high, it was so deafening. It was, to me, the pop of it, and then the storylines with the Dark Order, and then the lows of the anxious millennial cowboy. Man, it was such a journey for Hangman Adam Page throughout the year, and it was a long-term storytelling, as we talked about, with the ultimate payoff with winning against Kenny Omega. And so I think him being the top babyface, there hasn't been, I mean, when we were at All Out, Hangman wasn't there, obviously. We heard some huge pops, but Hangman, watching it on TV week in and week out, we would say, man, I don't know anyone got a bigger pop than him that night. And it, and so well-deserved for top babyface of the year, Hangman Adam Page from SPD.
Yeah, well, you talk about biggest pops of the night, and week in, week out, every time we get a chance to see Thunder Rosa in action, people get out of their chairs, they're jamming, they're rocking. There's nobody who is as authentic of a baby face. And here's the thing, and I hear it in the chat. Everyone knows I'm a heel. I love me some DMD, and even as the biggest DMD fanboy,
you could talk about that on the heel.
I've come to the realization that DMD is not as good as she can be unless she has someone like that. Thunder Rosa versus DMD feud is as good of a feud to me as it gets in pro wrestling. I think that we talk about it all the time, SPD.
Is that a spoiler for your pick later in our award show?
I hope that we keep people around. Here's my thing. We talk about it all the time. Iron sharpens iron. Thunder Rosa embodies that as a lifestyle. She's somebody who likes to be challenged. She's somebody who likes to push herself to the absolute limit. And how often have we talked about it? She's like a coach in the ring. We just are fresh off the heels with the match with Jade, who
fantastic.
Her biggest critics always talk about how Jade is too green. She's got the look. She's got all this star power, but she can't go in the ring. Well, I knew it. As soon as we saw Thunder versus Jade, I said, this is a huge opportunity for Jade, and she's going to come out looking great because you can trust Thunder to check those boxes. We talk about that, checking the boxes of a great babyface or a great heel. Thunder checks all of those boxes. She's got the scrappy underdog story of her background is real. She connects with people on an authentic level. She's got the fire and the energy in her entrance. She brings the passion.
Yep.
Her in-ring work, and SPD, this is one of the things that I know I'm preaching to the choir with you on. Her in-ring work is so different from most women's wrestling, but most wrestling in general. It feels like she's constantly pushing the pace. Her offense hits like nobody's business. She really stands out in the women's division to me. And I just feel like when it comes to connecting authentically with the fan base, Thunder Rosa is as good as it gets in pro wrestling. Now I'm going to toss it over to Bonds, who I struggled back and forth between your pick and mine for the top babyface.
Oh, yeah, man. And I love both of your guys' picks, but I had to give this one to Darby, mostly because I feel like his growth through 2021 was so big. True. And I feel like he's heading into 2022 with so much momentum. He had the longest ever TNT title reign this year, all while he was getting just demolished every week while retaining that title, going out there and being a fighting champion while he was smaller than everybody else. And that's awesome. Yep. That's like the epitome of being a babyface.
I love hearing you talk like this, man, because I always have to defend Darby as being, he's the
where's the train whistle
dummy. I love hearing Bonds talking about it and being real.
Oh yeah. And honestly, I'll be completely real with you guys. One of my favorite pay-per-view matches of the year was his cinematic street fight at Revolution with Sting against Team Taz. And I love that match. And it was such a unique setting and different, very different match than what we're used to, but it was really cool. And I would like to see more stuff like that. And finding out that he was in charge of most of the direction of that made me like him even more. So I have to give it to Darby Allin. I think he's a shoe-in superstar, long-term guy here at AEW, and is going to be a star for a long time. And this is just one of his first of many awards I'm sure he's going to win for us.
Yep. Well, I love that. And we got Thunder Rosa jumping into the chat asking, no votes for Cody. Honestly, we could have voted for him for this category or the next category.
I know.
Because we love Cody even is embracing it, his new T-shirt.
We are such a huge
babyface or winner, baby. It's like he's on board with the heel babyface vibes of Dynamite Download. He could win either category right now. He certainly is in the conversation.
Very fascinated with his storyline. Like that is one I'm week in and week out. I'm like, what's next? What's going to happen? And we'll discuss more of that a little bit later in this show because. Little surprise for that on that one, but top heel of 2021. I know it almost was a clean sweep for Kenny Omega, but I have to give it to MJF. One of our biggest fans as well here at Dynamite Download. Such a big fan of our positivity. He had to block us on Twitter. Such a big fan. He called us.
He has to keep kayfabe, bro. I get it.
And such a big fan. Yeah, he has to keep kayfabe. Such a big fan. He told us to suck donkey. You know what? At All Out. The list goes on and on and on.
He got me in trouble with my wife. He got me in trouble with my wife for racking up my bar tab at the hotel, just drinking margaritas on crayfish over and over again, and then telling me
he loves that salt, that extra salt on that rim. But
no, there's nobody. I mean, MJF is. It goes without explanation. I mean, he's as good of a heel as it gets. I had to pick Kenny Omega. As a guy who really the world title. For him to be the champ this year, and really we forget about all the humor and the incredible stuff that he did with Don Callis. Him turning on his tag team partner Hangman has created your top babyface of the year.
Yeah,
really that
Kenny's
story between Kenny
throughout the year has been the best.
I mean, his storyline that Kenny's role in AEW is even though there's a lot of star power on this roster, he is going to be missed. There's only one Kenny Omega. I look at him as the benchmark, and although he's not the traditional heel, maybe doesn't lean into it as much as MJF did. I love Kenny's vibe. His overall vibe this year. I thought he led the way for Team Heel in epic fashion in the ring and outside the ring. And here's the thing. Bonds, I know this is one of the things that you jump on too, because you're such a Don Callis fanboy. Kenny also surprised me with his heel work outside of the ring.
Yeah.
I know that Kenny can go in the ring, but he really showed that he can be a star in North American wrestling as a heel, and it worked. I was a fan of what he did this year.
Oh, for sure, man. And just looking at what he did as a whole, you can just look at his titles. As a heel, he broke the record for the longest reigning AAA title holder ever at 765 days, over 340 days as AEW World Champion, over 100 days as the Impact World Champion this year. Like, Kenny Omega, this is the year of Kenny Omega, and he was a heel the entire year. So for me, he has to be the heel of the year just because of that. And he's going to come back up on this list later on.
Can't argue that. I mean, I don't know about you.
Did we lose Crayfish?
I think we might have. I thought I was gone again.
Oh, no, we're good. But top heel, as you're saying, man, incredible stuff out of Kenny Omega. His character arc was like no one I've ever seen, the way he changed things out. But we're going to shift right into the top male athlete of 2020, and we'll let Crayfish refresh his stuff right there. But you can continue the Kenny Omega praise, because that was your pick for the top male athlete of 2021 on there. So sorry, I didn't change that number or the date, but tell me why.
Oh man, it's for the same reasons, man. I mean, you can't have that much gold and not be the top dog. He was the top guy in so many things. His promos were always hilarious. Like Crayfish alluded to, the pairing of him with Don Callis just made Kenny better. It let Kenny
fantastic.
It let them go off of each other a lot, and I think that worked.
Yeah.
Then with the Bucks as well, they deserve a lot of credit for that as well, because they were also very helpful in putting over Kenny's heel persona. There's a lot of people that can be attributed to Kenny having this award, but ultimately it's on Kenny Omega, because Kenny Omega is also one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Best bout machine for a reason, right?
Yeah, he's the best bout machine. There's a reason he had 3 world titles this year and from different companies. It's not because he can't go. It's because he's awesome and everybody wants to book him. And
that's true.
He's the man.
It's so true. And I purposely, just so everyone knows, I purposely hijacked my own Wi-Fi so that I could take a step back and let you two talk about the top male athlete, so that I could then hijack the segment when you guys.
You're gonna have to hijack.
And I could just praise the man himself, Pac, the bastard, the best wrestler on the planet. This is the guy.
Hard to argue
baby.
that.
This is the bar. SPD, how many interviews did we have this year where time and again the guys in the business have said Pac sets the bar, baby. This is the guy. This is the guy. And I know 2021 was a tough year for Pac. A guy who missed a lot of the year because of COVID and things like that. But every time I get a chance to see this guy, every single time he's in the ring, I'm just in awe. He makes it look so easy. He makes it look so effortless. He's just flawless in what he does. And again, I struggled with this because I know that on merit alone, on accolades and SPD, Bonds laid out an amazing argument for the world champion Kenny Omega, and I know Phoenix also has a lot that he could talk about. Winning the AEW Tag Team Championships, being some of this stuff early on in 2021 with Lance Archer, and some of that stuff gets forgotten about. So
oh my gosh,
I get
they
it.
stole the show week in and week out.
I get it. You guys both have awesome picks, but I had to kind of swing in here at the end and just had to rally and let everybody know, all that other stuff set aside, this is the best wrestler in pro wrestling, folks. This is the guy. He sets the bar. He's phenomenal.
It's hard to argue that. And, I didn't talk about Ray Phoenix. I let Bonds keep piggybacking off his heel pick on that. But are you guys surprised a little bit that I picked Ray Phoenix, even though he's in a predominantly tag team setting? Or are you just like, that's a chip? It's an SPD fanboy. He's a big mark for Ray Phoenix because the guy is incredible.
You always explain it. You always explain how you appreciate Ray Phoenix in the ring, and I agree with you in a lot of a lot of it, man, like he's not my pick for male athlete of the year, but I can understand it because every time Ray Phoenix is in the ring, you see something you've never seen before in a ring. And that's what makes him special. And that's
always
awesome.
Makes me mark out. Like the AEW roster, both male and female, is just jam-packed with elite level talent, no pun intended. But it just, everyone has their own unique taste on something. They have a little taste, but Ray Phoenix to me is one of the most innovative wrestlers, period. And for someone in a tag team to always stand out when your brother is Penta, man, who's a character on himself that stands out larger than life, and for Ray still to be someone that you constantly talk about because of the stuff that he does, man, I think he won my top performer of the night more than anyone this year, because the stuff that he did was just always incredible.
I mean, and I think that there's a lot of legitimate picks that we all could have talked about.
Yeah.
MJF certainly is one that just got thrown out there.
Jericho, he would have been a pick for me, probably.
Thunder Rosa throwing out Bryan Danielson again, making a mark in a short period of time. I'm not going to argue against Bryan Danielson because I picked a guy who wrestled a lot less matches than you guys. But Danielson does set the bar very high with his in-ring work, and for him to transform from being like a compelling babyface to being maybe one of the top heels in the company as fast as he did, I can understand why Thunder picks Bryan Danielson. No argument.
He had two of the best matches of the year.
He's up there. Eyes. Kenny and Hangman, both incredible matchups for him.
Yeah.
Very easy to rattle off. I'm being challenged in the chat. What was Pac's best match of the year? It's a very easy to rattle off his best matches, Bryan Danielson, because he left some epic ones on the table at the fourth quarter of 2021.
Now, the next category is top female athlete of 2021. And this is the fourth award of the night. And this is the first clean sweep. Sorry, Thunder, we're sorry for this, but we know this is going to change in 2022 because we have hopefully have this crystal ball of what we're seeing going forward in 2022, that this is the slow play, like Britt's, helping transform the division. It started in February when that main event, the first women's main event, which we pushed with that lights out unsanctioned match, it started with that. And then with Britt getting the gold and going on this, the crowd just being so over for her. But ultimately, we know the seeds are still being planted and watered for the rematch of the Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker feud. And that is what we're starting to get little tastes here and there. We started to get a little taste the past few months of it because with the 3-on-3. Oh, no. But we have to give props where props are due, because Britt Baker has been a great champ. And she wouldn't be as good of a champ if she didn't have opponents and other athletes that would lift her up as well. She's helping to elevate the women's division, along with, as we have said, there's a core of 4, 5, 6 women that are just top tier in AEW right now. Obviously, the 1-2 pick that we always go back and forth is Thunder and Britt Baker. And
my top 2 picks in my draft.
That's right. In our fantasy draft, you went
the fantasy draft. My first pick and second pick, Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, for a reason. I thought that the work those two women did really set the bar for women's wrestling in 2021. And although we've been very vocal that Britt's championship reign hasn't quite hit with certain bumps along the way how we expected.
Sure.
I will say, as the DMD fanboy of this
heel of the group,
the guy who's been preaching her greatness from day one, I'll say this. Britt is complete of a package in pro wrestling right now that I can turn to. Here's why. Every single week, her segments, whether on the mic or in the ring, you can count on them to be consistently fantastic. I know that this is not a shock to anyone who watches us regularly. I see greatness in Britt Baker. I've said it from very early on. She's got she checks all the boxes. She's so confident, so articulate, and her promos are vicious. She could just with a scalpel can just cut people down to size. Just brilliant in the way that she executes those, and she's transformed her character to being a pillar of AEW. MJF was told that recently by CM Punk. You know, the DMD is a pillar of this company, and I think that 2021, as Britt said, was the year of the DMD. I think that 2022 might be a little different. And I agree with
there might
USPD.
Be some more noise. There might be
I agree with USPD that I've been calling for DMD versus Thunder to be revisited basically since summer. So I'm chomping at the bit for those two to get their hands on each other again.
It's almost been a year.
It's been way too long.
And we're still talking about it. We're still talking about that feud. And at the time, and still to this day, we have said that has been one of the strongest feuds in AEW's history, period. You know, there's been a lot of great feuds, as we're seeing right now, Jericho, MJF, and as we'll talk with the feud of the year and stuff down the line. But overall, you know, ever since these two started going at each other, you talk about those backstage promos where Britt Baker washed off the face paint, how brutal that was. And then the attacks by Thunder and the back and forth. And then just the ultimate brutal ending of the match where Thunder Rosa won that unsanctioned match through in epic fashion. Like, and I loved how AEW did that package where they showed the backstage, you know, just everyone standing ovation. You know, we were at home, standing ovation, just like in awe, almost speechless. You go back and watch our Dynamite Download recap show, and you know, I didn't have any expectations. I had no idea what to expect. I knew that the delivery by both performers was going to be spot on, but it was that and tenfolds.
Here's the thing, and I want Bonds to, I'm going to pitch it to you here, Bonds.
Okay.
You and I have had a lot of conversation about this, and the reason why the DMD was my pick is because she's so head and shoulders. She has been so head and shoulders above so many of her counterparts in this division when it comes to her promo game.
Yeah.
And that's something that you talked about has been almost a handicap of her world championship reign, is that there are very few competitors who can go toe-to-toe with Britt on the mic. And that's why Thunder worked, because her fire and her passion and her energy, even though English is not her first language in a lot of ways, she feels most comfortable like cutting her promos in Spanish, which I love some of that fire, that natural fire and energy that comes out of Thunder in those promos. But there are very few people who can hang with Britt on the mic. And that's one of the things that I know that differentiated Britt to me in the rest of the landscape of AEW. And I know that you really got me thinking of that pattern when we got to see Britt's title reign start to unfold. And I was put in a position where I had to defend Britt all the time. And you you kind of jumped in and said, you know, Crayfish, here's part of the reason why that title reign isn't hitting like that. So tell me about it.
Man, you pretty much explained it.
Thunder. With no respect. Hey, Thunder, I promise you, stick around. You're gonna see a lot of love.
I'm sure you'll enjoy this much more after we're done with this segment.
Top face of the year.
Let's get Bronze through his moment so we can take her face off the screen. I have a feeling the Thunder wants to close
you
off.
Have three people behind you, Thunder. If you ever need backup, you know who to call. We'll be there for you.
But man, like you said,
unless you're facing the DMD, apparently.
Yeah, right. But man, like part of why we want that Thunder versus Britt feud is because, like you said, there's an equality there. There's like the level of talent and the level of mic work and in-ring stuff is just so epic and perfect and awesome. Like, I struggled really hard with my match of the year because of that match. That was probably my favorite women's match I've ever seen. Her and Thunder at that main event was probably my favorite women's match I've ever seen ever. And I've been watching wrestling since I was 5.
It's a bar set high that's going to be hard to top.
Yeah. And that's why, man, like we talked about, it's so jarring when you go from that epic, awesome match of the year candidate to stuff that's not as quality. And so for Britt, you know, like I'm ready for that feud because we know what it can be. We know it can be the best feud in AEW.
Preach.
And we're ready, man. Tony Khan, if you're watching, man, we like marinating and waiting on stuff, but this one we're tired of waiting on, man.
We're ready.
To be a world title feud, especially now that Thunder's got some time. So it's time for this, man. I want to see that feud. I want it to continue. It's awesome.
You're right, man. Do you guys want to talk about Feud of the Year since we keep talking
Let's
about
do
Feud?
it. Let's
do it.
transition into it,
Let's
baby.
do it.
I mean, there was, as we talked with Mike recently, the so many different feuds, and I did struggle with this one a lot.
Not me.
I know, not you. You were the fastest text message I ever got on that one. But Feud of the Year, Crayfish. Obviously, this was I picked Inner Circle Pinnacle because Jericho has always been one of my top guys. He was, I named him to my Mount Rushmore, and I think the amount of storytelling, the amount of matches, the depth we got with that feud was one of the most fun times in AEW to me as a huge Jericho and Inner Circle mark. And seeing MJF get his butt beat time and time again, and seeing the Inner Circle triumph from the dust and the ashes and overcome all that and against all odds, and the uniqueness with Blood and Guts, with the Stadium Stampede, and things like that. Like I laughed so many times with that feud. I cheered so many times with that feud. We yelled at MJF when we were there in February. Screaming at MJF. He gave us the double bird and some other gestures that we didn't want to mention at Daly's place, but we were invested in that feud, for a while, and it was a long feud. And then we saw the ultimate. We saw the end of it, and so we saw it live at All Out. So to me, that roller coaster of emotions that I got with Inner Circle Pinnacle was my feud of the year. And if we're talking male and female, I mean, it's a clean sweep. Bar none. I mean, not even in the same ballpark.
Don't go dancing. Go ahead, Bonds. I'll let you jump in here too, since you guys had the same pick.
Piggyback.
All right, cool. Think about the names in this feud. Like, we genuinely love every single person that's involved. And for me, that was a big part of me getting into this feud. The names involved, the matches. We talked so often. If you go back and watch our old stuff, we talked so often about, man, what matches do we want to see in this feud? We were so excited about it. And we got to see most of the matchups we wanted to see. We got to see Hager versus Wardlow in an MMA fight.
Oh, it's so
like
cool.
That, like just stuff like that. The tag matches we got to see, the trios matches we got to see. All this stuff was epic and awesome, down to the end when Jericho had his career on the line. In this feud.
Exactly.
And man, like, think of all the weeks where probably a third of the show was dedicated to this feud.
Good point.
There were so many weeks where all these guys were carrying the product in a lot of ways. And I just have to give it to them for that, because that's hard to do. The fact that they had like probably a third of the time on AEW television and they were giving it their all. And this was pre-Rampage as well. So they were doing that all on Dynamite, and it wasn't stale. It wasn't boring. It was always entertaining, edge of your seat stuff. And while there was maybe a few too many rematches towards the end, I think that the feud as a whole, like, was just so perfect and long and great. I just enjoyed it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like this feud, for me, the Thunder Rosa versus DMD feud, is one we're still talking about. Inner Circle versus Pinnacle, that chapter is closed, and it feels like everybody's moved on and everything's moved. Like everything's, there's no real interaction between those groups. And yeah, that was an epic feud this year
of 2021.
It was epic feud this year. But when we go from start to finish on this calendar year, they've allowed that feud between Thunder, that animosity between Thunder and Britt to simmer, and it's never really truly gone away. There's always been those moments where it creeps back up.
We all want,
and it's so close, and they hint at it, and
it's a taste.
And truthfully, like, I'll be honest with you, no feud turned me into a bigger mark than Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. I was fully invested in that feud. I geeked out about it. I absolutely was in awe of what these two women put themselves through in that unsanctioned match. The beating that they gave each other was epic. Still, I think that is, I mean, we'll talk more about this when we get into the match of the year, right? But that is a strong candidate for match of the year. They redefined, as you said, what I view as the bar for women's wrestling now. These two women, and here's the thing, as a DMD fanboy, I have had to admit over the course of this year that nobody nobody pushes Britt quite like Thunder. No feud, no match, none of it is hit quite like that moment early on in this year. And I just feel like there's something so special about what these two women had, how personal, how violent it got, that I think that this is the defining feud of not only this year of the women's division to this point, and potentially of both of their careers.
How many more matches in the women's division or in AEW period had the wrestling world and non-wrestling world buzzing after it? I mean, maybe you can throw in like the blood and guts, like that scene where Jericho off the cage, but there wasn't many matches that I can remember where like, on ESPN or, other like non-traditional wrestling outlets were talking about certain things. And
we've talked we've talked about it with Thunder. We've talked about it time and again. Britt would not be the star that she is if it wasn't for Thunder Rosa. The work that Thunder does with talent, she constantly as a way of putting talent and creating stars. We've talked about it with a lot of our fans. The work that she's done in AEW, outside of AEW, she builds stars on her back. And this was, to me, again, if you're telling me my pick for top heel, top female performer of the year is Britt Baker, she would not be in that role if it wasn't for what she did with Thunder Rosa. I think that this feud, like you said, had people buzzing afterwards, is to me, again, I thought potential career-defining feud between these two, and it has not gone away. We began the year and we're ending the year with this. We
don't ever want it to go away.
Going against each other. It's just a beautiful thing. I love it.
It is
poetic.
like every, in the chat we're seeing, every Flair needs a Sting, every Batman needs a Joker, every Stone Cold needs a Vince McMahon, and this is every DMD needs a Thunder Rosa, and vice versa.
Amen.
And it's
so true.
There isn't many other talent that I can say that yin and yangs as well as those two together. Yep. But that being said, we're going to move on to top mic work of the year, and it's another clean sweep from Dynamite Download. And believe it or not, last year's top mic award, MJF was not on there. We had Eddie Kingston. Two of us picked Crayfish and SPD picked Eddie Kingston, and Bonds picked Taz, which was much more vocal on the mic versus vocal on commentary. But I think if we once we get a full year of the CM Punk, the Adam Cole, things could change. But there isn't. If we get more of Dan Lambert, Dan Lambert is absolutely so good at being bad. I hate him so much. But I love him at the same time. But that's the same thing with MJF, man. I hate his guts so much, but I love him at the same time because he's so good at being bad. And we know he's a big supporter, like I said. Highly endorsed. Dynamite Download calling us the Jersey Shits. Highly endorsed by MJF on that as well. So he is our all clean sweep of top mic work. I mean, that guy has never once flubbed a line that I have seen. No. And we talk about, like what we talked about in the interview, looking for the positives and, not looking for the botches and things like that. But, I'm almost wanting to see a botch out of MJF to see if he's human, because I don't think he's human because of how good he is and how smooth he is and how fast he is on the mic. Like, I can't go a couple sentences without saying, let alone MJF at his age, 24, 25 years old, just looking in camera and millions of people watching him and just that spotlight and just like it's natural looking in the mirror. Unbelievable stuff by him.
Your first overall pick, Bonds, you have to be grinning year to year.
Oh, I mean, I'm not shocked at all, frankly. The feud with Inner Circle and Pinnacle really showed how good MJF is, because Jericho, I think, is widely considered one of the best talkers of all time in the industry. And not only was he going toe to toe with Chris Jericho, but there were times where he was better than Chris Jericho in that feud, which is insane.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Man,
that's hard to say because Jericho is
he's a GOAT. He's a Mount Rushmore for most people, and he's earned that. I mean, this guy had the cojones to tell Brian Pillman Jr. that his dad was looking at him from hell, watching them in the ring. Like this, there's nobody like MJF. People compare him to The Miz. I've never heard The Miz say some of the stuff he's said.
Hell no.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm a Miz guy, but man, like MJF is a different level. Nobody can touch this guy. Nobody can touch him. Like nobody can.
No one.
It's such a shame too. I mean, he's such a jerk, man. But
that's why it works so
he's
well.
so good at what he does,
that.
man. I said it once and I'll say it again. There's nobody worse than a guy who talks trash, backs it up, and then reminds you that he backed it up and kicked your ass. And that's what MJF does, dude.
Yep.
He's so good. We've talked about it over and over and over again. And this is why, like, he's clearly the top mic work of 2021 is because when you put MJF in a segment, you know that he's going to deliver his portion. He's always going to come through. This dude he checks all the boxes. He's so smooth. He's so flawless. He's so easy. He makes it look so easy. Dude, you guys just talked at length about Inner Circle and that feud. His stuff with CM Punk, that promo, which was like a 20-minute epic promo battle with Punk, was incredible. The stuff that he did with Darby was great. You know, his obsession with getting in Darby's head and breaking him mentally.
The 4 pillars storyline.
I mean, MJF, and now what he's doing with Wardlow, guys. I mean, he's ending the year on a high note too. Like, let's be real.
Like we talked about
winning the Dynamite Diamond ring for the 3rd time in a row. I mean, he just has so much to brag about, and he's so good at bragging. I hate MJF, but man, is he good at what he does.
We can all hate its guts, man, but that's the pure joy of being a wrestling fan. Is everyone needs a heel, everyone needs a baby face, and you know, next category that we're going to talk about is the top tag team of 2021.
Good question.
And
we asked this to Mike, and
sure we have all 3 different ones here.
Who do you think I picked?
Lucha Brothers.
Sano!
I'm right. Yeah, I'm right.
So Young Bucks, I'm a huge Young Bucks fan. Yes,
shocking.
But to me, there's no one better in the ring than a healthy Lucha Brothers. If they are clicking on all cylinders and they're healthy in the ring, they put on a show like I've never seen before. And, you know, transitioning from WWE to AEW, seeing the Young Bucks in the ring, seeing the Lucha Brothers in the ring, I'm like, what is this? This is incredible stuff. I'm just a loss for words at times. And Penta and Ray Phoenix are 2 of the most impressive, innovative, dominant wrestlers as singles and together as a team. Are just a loss for words, man. Incredible stuff. And I'm so happy that they have gold around their waist finally and getting the recognition that they truly deserve, because they're unstoppable when they're healthy, and they never disappoint in the ring.
As a Lucha Underground geek, like a total fanboy of that company, even though it was short-lived, as a guy who just loved Lucha Underground, you know, I'm not shocked at what these guys can do. I watched it. I experienced the awe that you're experiencing with now. I experienced that. And now I just appreciate their greatness, and they are the part of Death Triangle, which it also features a guy who's very similar to them. You don't get to see them in action all the time, but when you do, it feels incredible. They're so good at what they do. They make it look effortless a lot of the time. They connect with the fans, great energy. So I understand your pick. For me, I really struggled with this one. I was really connecting with Mike when he was answering his question earlier, because my debate back and forth internally was FTR and the Young Bucks.
Yeah,
I am such an FTR fanboy that I struggled giving the Bucks the nod here. But when I look at their title run, when I look at their role in the Kenny Omega championship reign and story, and how great they did outside of the ring, on so much of their character work over the course of 2021, I found that the Bucks were one of those teams that they stood out in multiple categories for me. They were key players in the top heel. They were huge candidates in the top match of the year for me. With the steel cage match with the Lucha Brothers. They were, to me, these guys had a banner year. And I had to give them the nod, even though FTR has accomplished
they
accomplished a lot in 2021. But I feel like the Bucks stood out.
Do you think this is the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers are their yin to their yangs in terms of level of matches that they can produce as
I don't think that's a stretch. You know, I think that these guys, and I'm not going to spoil anything for later,
Right.
but you know, we might be talking about them in a little bit. But yeah, man, I think that they can go and have the best tag team matches in the world. Both these teams together can have the best matches in the world. The reason I picked the Bucks is because they had a 300-day title reign dating back to last November. You know,
Bring in the stats.
Yeah, 300 days, like 302, 302.
Bring in the stats, brother.
And I remember how frustrated we were at times during their run.
Who's gonna beat them?
Like, who's gonna beat these guys? Like, we were getting and as a fan of the Young Bucks, I love the Bucks. I think they're awesome. I was getting genuinely annoyed by them. Like, I was genuinely irritated. Like, when they would just go out and be like, "Oh man," like Brandon Cutler comes out with his stupid cold spray and ruins the match, and I'm like, man, like, come on, guys. You know, like, come on, like this is getting ridiculous, and it did get ridiculous. But as Mike talked about earlier, Mike Magnum talked about, which if you guys didn't get to see that earlier, check it out later. We'll be posting it on our YouTube channel. But as he talked about 5 years ago, he thought the Bucks couldn't tell stories, and you see a lot of people online talk about that. And then he said, like, once he saw them in person and got to watch it, like, he was like, "Oh man, no, these guys are really nuanced performers, and like these guys do get it, and they're doing something that nobody else is doing." And I love that about the Bucks. And I think that right now, while they're in the backseat a little bit, they're still kind of involved in main event stuff. Obviously, with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, this story is getting really interesting. But you know, that title reign was epic and long and amazing, even though they cheated most of the time to win their title matches. They would still have these epic moves, and their tandem wrestling is just on point. I think that the Lucha Bros and the Bucks are the best tandem wrestlers, the best tandem moveset in wrestling. So for me, like, this is a toss-up. There's so many good tag teams in AEW, but I just have to give it to the squad that they held the titles for almost the whole year.
Stats don't lie, brother. You're right.
It's exactly.
So is that Arn Anderson over there with the play cards you got shuffling through there, Bonds?
That's just a paper.
The play card?
No,
as we're seeing in the chat, you know, mine brought up like Brandon Cutler deserves some kind of award, and I mean,
he does. Stooge of the Year award. Brandon,
one of the best bench players, sixth man of any kind of group that I've seen in a long time. That guy has played his role to an absolute T. The Young Bucks are great on their own, but honestly, without Cutler and the cold spray and the shenanigans that he throws in there, like, he helped elevate the Young Bucks
for sure.
And Kenny, like
5-10 fold, man. That is an honorary award. Great idea, Mindrunner. It would be fun to do like a superlative award, you know, like end of the like school awards that are just funny, like Jimmy Fallon does that. But Brandon Cutler, man, giving props to him because he absolutely deserves it. We told him at All Out, we were like, man, what you're doing is incredible stuff, man. And I saw him in the gym a couple times. And I'm like, you're killing it, man. You're killing it for sure.
He was such a nice guy too.
Very nice guy.
He's just a really nice guy.
And speaking of killing it, we're on to our breakout star of the year. So we're also going to predict a breakout star of 2022. But first, we're going to talk about our breakout stars of 2021. And Bonds and I are on the same page of this one. Himself, man, Dante Martin. Absolutely. He's another one of those. Sorry, I'm reading the
Rutger's comment is funny. Yeah, it's actually, I was thinking Rebel. I was thinking
the runner-up
would
be runner-up.
I like that,
would be Rebel.
That'd be pretty good.
Cutler and Rebel, Reba should be
wow. So breakout star of 2021. You guys went with, I think, the
Airwolf.
Very popular, buzzworthy name of Dante Martin. And I think that there's really no shock to see his name on Breakout Star of 2021. Huge year for Dante. I'll start off because I know I'm the oddball out. They claimed to me, I know, Bonds, you're dropping stats. most wins of 2021 in the tag division goes to neither one of the tag teams of the year that we talked about. It goes to the Acclaimed.
Really?
Yes, correct.
Because everyone loves them.
Everyone loves them. Another fact. Another fact. Everyone loves the Acclaimed.
Everyone loves the Acclaim.
Max Caster is freaking hilarious, and we missed him so much when he was gone. We got a taste of what AEW was like when he was suspended this year. And it was not as good of a place without him.
Correct.
I looked at this one and I said, I truly, and I know the tag division is stacked, but I truly couldn't imagine the tag division without these guys right now. I love what they do. I think that they're hilarious. I think that they have huge upside. We've talked about it because we talk about the heel and babyface dynamics so much on this show. These are guys that we feel are going to break out as baby faces in 2022 potentially. And it's because their charisma is so undeniable. Love these guys, love their gimmick. And again, we think about the transformation of the roster, but let's talk about transformations of characters. These are guys, when they first came onto AEW, I remember we were making fun of them and saying like, they had one joke, and it was just about the Young Bucks book cover, about how they kept looking at each other's junk, and that's all they could talk about. That was literally, I was like, this is the dumbest tag team I've ever seen. These guys suck. And they've transformed my opinion to so much
very quickly
that I was pushing our whole team here, guys. These guys are awesome. These guys
right
are
all along,
freaking awesome. And
I know you want to
now
hear
you guys are all on board with it. So I know that I did such a huge 180 on the Acclaim because of the work they put in this year. I love it. I love these guys. I think they have so much to offer. It's so hard to do humor well in pro wrestling, and they do it. Very easy team to root for, and I think that's why they're going to be big baby faces next year. Unfortunately, I'm going to lose some talent from Team Heel.
They can work both ways.
Yeah,
right, Bonds?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
Well, they like the scissors.
Yeah, right.
Scissoring. Yeah.
No kidding. But yeah, man, I understand picking the Acclaimed for sure. I think that they're one of the most entertaining teams in AEW, and individually, they're both very different in the ring. Their ring stuff's awesome. Like, so there's really not a chink in their armor. You know, they have everything. They've got the ability to talk, and I know that Max does the raps, but Anthony Bowens can talk, man.
We saw
these guys don't have weaknesses.
On Dynamite. He cut a good promo on Dynamite.
Oh
last
yeah,
night.
he just cut a good promo last night.
And that's another reason why these guys stand out to me compared. And Dante is a name that I can't argue with you guys. Yeah, Dante is a name that when it comes to blowing my mind every single time I watch them, Dante Martin is a guy who is clearly insanely talented, and he's so young and has so much upside. But the Acclaimed, to me, don't really have any glaring flaws. They're great. Right. They're great on social media. They're great. Max Caster's tied into TMZ Sports.
Yeah.
They're hilarious. They're creative and funny. And I miss their rap set. Their little pre-taped raps that they would do before their big matches. Everything about these guys, and I Bonds, I know that you've talked about it to me. It's like, dude, Bowens is a powerhouse. Like, this is a guy, like, low key is one of the stronger, bigger, more athletic dudes in AEW's men's division. Not a lot of flaws on this team, and that's why I mean, again, they transform my entire
future tag champs. But let's talk about Dante SPD.
Let's talk.
I'll tell you why I picked him. Part of why I picked him is because of where he started the year to where he is now. You know, he started off as a relative unknown in a tag team with his brother, breaking out at 20 years old.
But
great worker, but you know. Once his brother got hurt, once Darius got hurt, everybody's like, okay, well, they might go on the back seat. No, Dante Martin didn't. He continued to be involved in storylines, continued to elevate his game in the ring. And while we haven't really gotten to see much from him as a mic worker, he's been involved in a lot of storylines for a kid that's 8 years younger than me, and I'm a young guy. You know, he's a young kid, man. He's so true. He'd be a sophomore in college right now if he wasn't wrestling.
Ridiculous.
You know what I mean? So
it's ridiculous to think about.
Yeah, he wrestles like a veteran.
Yeah,
and he's younger than everybody else on the roster, maybe other than like one or two other people. And some of the stuff he can do in the ring is just filthy.
It's
the
ridiculous.
air he gets, like off the
Camera,
top.
he's out of screen sometimes.
Yeah,
I
he
love
jumps
I
out
love
of
when I get a
way.
chance to talk
It's-
about a Dante Martin match with SPD in particular, because he just like he like goes crazy over Dante's offense.
If there was a jump of the year category, he would be a clean sweep for sure. But
Yeah.
you know, I'm excited to see where he's going to be in a year or 2 years or 3 years. He's my breakout candidate of 2021, or breakout star of 2021. Like, what's he going to be like in 2025?
Yeah, he
You know-
he isn't truly. I mean, he
man.
broke out this year, but like
He's
it
not.
feels like
breaking
he's
out
going to
yet.
have another
He's-
breakout
Yeah.
in the next few years. I agree.
Right. He's like Pat Mahomes' rookie season where he played and he was really good. And you're like, oh man, this guy's got a ton of potential. But then the next year, Pat Mahomes broke every single record ever in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then you're like, man, this guy's the man.
Wow, he actually,
And-
yeah, this guy is really good.
yeah. And that's how I feel about Dante, man. I get like vibes of a young Jeff Hardy in his in-ring stuff. And I just love that. Absolutely.
Dude, we're real quick. What were you doing at 19 years old? I don't even want to repeat what I was doing.
Bro, I don't know if I have a wife now and a kid
I
to
was
come. I don't
young,
want that on
young
video.
and dumb. And Dante
Yeah.
Martin is main eventing a headline live TV across the nation, across the world, and he is doing it in a confident, cool, outstanding way. And the stuff he's stealing kisses, man. He is doing some excellent work, man. He's being our top performer, making us just wow. Incredible innovation from him, incredible height, as we said. It is awesome. AEW, this is a diamond in the rough that they have in Top Flight in general, but also Dante Martin. When Top Flight returns as a core, the first time we saw him, I remember when we talked about it, Crayfish, like the first time we saw him, we're like, these guys are insane. These are like a young bucks. When they went against the Young Bucks, I'm like, I signed them ASAP, and then they got signed. And really incredible stuff from Dante Martin. I'm very excited to see what's in store for him coming in this next year. I want to see Top Flight versus Lucha Brothers. I want to see Private Party versus Lucha Brothers because I love that high flying offense, innovative
You do.
stuff. And Private Party. I wish I was on the show last night, but I was flying. But I was watching 34,000 feet up above. Thank you, Delta. But when Isaiah Cassidy screamed like a little girl with Luchasaurus threw him up. Every time Isaiah Cassidy screams, I mark out for that because I think it's the funniest thing. Like, ah! Like he screams so loud. Like,
You can't even do it. It's so funny.
I can't even do it, man. We're moving on. We're almost to the end of our awards show. Next up is the top match of 2021.
Match of the year.
We got match of the year, and we have breakout star of 2022 prediction. So match of the year, I think this is the third time, or what? Maybe the third time both Thunder Rosa and D have been featured from Crayfish's column. Bonds and I have the same match of the year, steel cage match for the AEW tag team titles at All Out. And part of this not only was two of my favorite tag teams going toe to toe, also seeing it live. I think that was like the wild card in there. There was a lot of great matches this year, and it's really hard to put your thumb down on one. One that is just like a 100%. Obviously, the unsanctioned match is a huge one. Obviously, to me, like the Stadium Stampede and Blood and Guts was a huge one. Obviously, Hangman and Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson. Even honestly, like MJF and Darby Allin at the pay-per-view, that was both guys I think put on their best match in AEW, period. And the storytelling with it, I was really impressed with that. And those are some sleeper picks. And there's so many more that happen throughout the year. But this one, the steel cage match, everything from the amazing entrances to the hype and the build up to it, and to the finish and the story arc at the end. Like both Lucha Brothers were bleeding through the masks. The tacks on the shoe and
being there live was
off the top of there, and we were there live for that, and just the emotion.
That match was
and then
killer.
we saw I think it was Penta's daughter crying her eyes out right by us, going to hug Penta, like all that. Like you don't always get that watching it on TV, but we got the full emotional roller coaster, and that was my match of the year. And Bonds, you can piggyback on that.
being at All Out, like seeing that massive cage and knowing that these guys were going to just absolutely destroy each other in that cage. It was awesome and so fun and epic. And there's so many words you can say to describe it. But when you put the two most athletic, best tandem wrestling tag teams in a cage for the biggest tag titles in the world, the most important tag titles in the world, you're going to get
Pretty
what we
platinum.
got, and you're going to get a perfect 5-star, epic, awesome match. You know, people jumping off that cage. I don't know how you live jumping that high. There's so many things that we saw in that match. You know, the weapons being used, Brandon Cutler trying to get in there and make a mark on it as well. You know, there's so much, and also the lead up to this match is something we have to talk about too, because for so long we were like, man, who's going to beat the Young Bucks? And we talked about it before that match. You know, if the Lucha Brothers don't beat the Young Bucks in this match, who beats the Young Bucks for these titles? Like, how is this gonna, like, how can you get a bigger payoff than this? And we got the ultimate payoff. This match was perfect, and I loved it. And it's funny because these were the two matches I struggled with which one I was going to pick, and I don't think there's a wrong answer up on this board right now.
Agreed. I mean, I'm not in my head. I'm not in my head the whole time you guys are talking. I mean, being there live, this match was absolutely killer. But for me, SPD said it. There was a theme to my picks tonight. Britt being, you know, top heel, Thunder top baby face. You know, this feud of the year. I mean, there's just a lot. Sorry, Britt wasn't my top heel. Sorry. So I actually Thunder was my top baby face. Match of the year, Britt versus Thunder, and feud of the year, Britt versus Thunder. There's no other match that we made an actual video hyping up other than this match. We did. I mean, SPD, we made an entire video of us hyping up this match between Britt and Thunder for a reason.
Thank you for reminding that, because that was I forgot all about that. We need to repost that before they go toe to toe again.
I mean, it was an awesome little video that you threw together of us just go. I mean, it's easy because so much has happened in AEW, and that match happened very early in the year. It's very easy to forget how incredible the build was for that. How violent that match was, how great that match was, what an impact that match was, that match had. I mean, across the board, I love what Thunder and Britt have, their chemistry together. I thought this match delivered in every single way that you could ask for. I think it was, again, career-defining match, set the bar for women's wrestling for me. They set the bar. And so and it features my two favorites, and so it was I struggled with your guys' pick because obviously we were there live and it was an incredible match to see. The athleticism that was on display between the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks was unbelievable. But the match that's going to stick with me forever from 2021 is Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. So, this is the long-lasting effect of that match, how much I was emotionally invested in it and how much potential I believe that it has to shape AEW going forward. And really was, if we think about this, SPD, the tag division was always the backbone of AEW, right? The tag division was always one of the best parts of what made AEW great. The women's division was not that. The women's division grew tremendously in 2021. The women's division went from being a back burner to being at the forefront of this company. They built a lot of stars. They really are featuring this division a lot more.
A second belt.
They have a second belt. This division went from being the clear weakness of this company to a clear strength. And I feel like the Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa feud and that match really sparked that. If you're Tony Khan, if you're Tony Khan and you saw what those two did, I think that was clearly a moment where AEW recognized, okay, we can really invest in this division and it can change everything. I don't know. I love it. I can't wait for those two to go toe to toe.
Oh my gosh, that is it's going to be fantastic, and we're going to eat it up. But just to recap, everyone, here's our categories that we do. We got one more, our 2022 Breakout Star prediction. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We want to thank Mike Magnum for making a special appearance in our pre-show of this, and we hope you guys enjoyed our end of the year awards. We're not going to be doing a Rampage rundown tomorrow because it's New Year's Eve, but we will be back live on Wednesday for Dynamite Download episode 67. And Crayfish is almost in single-digit countdowns for the new addition to the Crayfish heel family.
Counting down the days,
yeah,
brother.
There's a new little one on the
little
way.
baby heel.
Did you get a
world.
DMD onesie for him or her yet?
I didn't get him a DMD onesie, but I did a heel onesie.
You did.
I got him a heel and a babyface onesie,
Yep.
and a Dynamite Download onesie that'll he'll be able to use on his little one. But that being said, we're happy for you, Crayfish. 2021 or 2022 is going to be an excellent year for the Crayfish family and for AEW. But looking forward, 2022 Breakout Star of the Year. This is where I agree with you guys, but this is my kind of sleeper pick. What did everyone think of my sleeper pick right here?
Ooh, that's interesting. I
know.
like it. Go for it. Let's talk about it.
Cody Rhodes, the Cody Rhodes saga, which I talked about a little bit earlier, what it is and has been some of the most kind of head scratching storylines and what we're doing, story direction that I have in a long time, where I'm like, what is going to happen? I'm very invested in this. I'm like, is he going to retire? Is he's taking his boot off? Is he heel? Is he babyface? Why is the crowd booing him? Because I love him. We like him. We support him. Like all this about him. And like, it's so interesting. And then all of a sudden he wins, not all of a sudden, but he jumps the line, as Dan Lambert says, gets a TNT title match, wins the TNT title back for the third time, the first three-peat champion. And now he's going into the new year, defending against All Ego Ethan Page tomorrow night on Rampage. And he's got gold around his waist. And
he's a heel now, right?
And we don't know if he's a heel. Is he a babyface? Is he a worker? What is he doing? And so Breakout Star of 2022, because I think whatever end game is in store with him is going to be one that we're all going to be wowed and kind of be like impressed with, whether it be a full heel turn, whether it be just continuing to play, walk the fine line. But also at the same time, what I've loved about the TNT title runs of Cody in the past is the open challenges. Yeah. He has been one of the best TNT. I know we talk about Brody Lee, we talk about Darby Allin, but all TNT title holders have been excellent. But that being said, Cody Rhodes to me sticks out the most because of what he's done in terms of Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, all these people, like the open challenge stuff. I hope he leans into this walking the line of being a heel and as you said, Bonds, like doing open challenges, bringing in new people, but also having this like over the top celebrations, Captain America, like Uncle Sam, confetti falling from the it's like
crying with a parade every time.
The World Series,
being carried out of the ring,
winning the Super Bowl every time he wins an open challenge, something like all that would be so great. Like that'd be, to me, would be such an interesting story for 2022. Yes, Wardlow, 100%. Throw him under the SPD logo right there. I would absolutely love that. There's so many different people. And as we're seeing here, Hook, send Hook.
I'm shocked
so many names
up there. I'm shocked
we are getting
his face isn't up there.
Taste. We have just gotten our palate wet of what he can do. Two matches on live or on television in the ring in front of a crowd that he absolutely delivered. The crowd is so over for him. And if you didn't see that video I sent you guys, Hook slapped Cody Rhodes in the face. They called out Cody Rhodes after off the air and came out face to face and slapped him. Do we see such a new green wrestler in Hook dethrone Mr. EVP himself, Cody Rhodes? I don't think that's too far fetched. AEW isn't really known to doing that. Jade has earned her mark. Jade is earning her ranking. Jade is earning the championship title match next week for the TBS tournament. Is she going to win? Yes, we all think that. We think she's going to be to the moon. Since day one, since minute one, when she stepped on the screen, Jade has looked and acted like an absolute phenomenal superstar. she's a superhero. She's a real life superhero. My wife marks out to her. She's like, oh my gosh, she's got an amazing body. Jade is incredible. I'm like, yes, she's been fantastic to us on social media. She's always acknowledged things we posted about her. So she's the real deal. And I think having that experience with veterans such as Thunder Rosa in the ring and other ones, when she gets that gold around her waist, it's going to be a lot of fun. And to continue that undefeated streak, one of the few undefeated streaks in AEW. And then hopefully maybe we get that rematch and someone dethrones her to give her the first loss. But it's a very compelling story. But Wardlow.
You guys, you went from Cody Rhodes to Jade, which, hey man, I mean, you couldn't go from one end of the spectrum to the other any more than you just did.
What do you think about Cody though?
Cody, that's what I mean. Is Cody being such a veteran and Jade being so new? Cody is a breakout star. It was shocking for me to see him be up there on the screen for you because he's so well established. I mean, the guy is the backbone of AEW. But I understand where you're coming from in what you said.
It's a very different thing.
It's a very different
breakout. He is a star already, but a breakout character.
Right. I get where you're coming from. And I guess for me, I saw the best of both worlds coming with Wardlow. And Bonds and I talked about that. Is that, I was a year too early on the Wardlow breakout. I felt like, I see this guy and I'm like, how is he not universally just looked at as like an absolute superstar stud, future world champion type of guy? And although it was slow played throughout the year, AEW gave us a lot of hints that they believe that he can be that. They really
just listen to JR.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to JR call a Wardlow match, and okay.
He's salivating nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
He's a glorified manager for Wardlow.
I'm an absolute mark for this guy. I love Wardlow. I love everything that this guy can do. And I'm not getting off the train just because I was a year early. We're seeing it now. Bonds, you and I had an epic conversation. If you missed it, go back and check out this clip from Wednesday. Really one of the better conversations that we've had about Wardlow over 2021, I felt like. And we laid out all that's going on with the big man and why he is so special. This feud with MJF that's simmering right now really has our interest peaked, and we've been waiting for Wardlow to rip that dude's face off. And it's gonna happen before we know it. I think that Wardlow, when he breaks out and is treated like a baby face, he's gonna be over like crazy. His offense, everything, everything about him, dude is an absolute beast.
Yeah, man. We're in the middle of it now. I really think that he's on a 16-match win streak. We talked about this yesterday, man. Like it needs to happen against MJF, and that's what's being set up. He's going to break out this. It's going to happen. It's not going to be a year early again. They're setting it up, man. Like we're in the midst of it. He's got everything you could want. His in-ring stuff is insane. Like you said, man, once he rips MJF's face off and throws it back at him, like the crowd is going to be so behind Wardlow.
Yeah,
they're going to have to push him like to the moon.
Yeah,
they won't have a choice. You know what I mean? Like you put anybody against MJF and they're going to get cheered. But when you put somebody that's on his side and is getting cheered already, and then you have him turn, that's going to be gold. It's going to be absolute gold, and I can't wait for it. And I just know it's coming, so I'm excited about it because it's already here. And
us
like
Cleveland boys had to again acknowledge the War Dog's potential, man. The guy is an absolute stud. Has so much upside. It's crazy to think about
all the
when
big guy names
when he gets
around,
featured.
Like,
we saw. One of the more memorable moments in all of AEW history is his match against Cody Rhodes in the cage. And we know that the potential that the War Dog has. If you lean into this dude and you start making him a featured character on Dynamite, you're going to see a major breakout. Exactly. And that's what Bonds is talking about.
His floor is insane. I feel like his floor is Ryback. And that's insane.
You're right.
That's what his floor feels like, man.
Yeah.
And when you got a guy like that, that's a breakout star. Yeah, legit, man.
SVD, give me a feed me more.
And then give me another Ray Phoenix, please.
Oh, and what? No.
And Brian brings up a great question about Wardlow as our top breakout.
That's why we
Wardlow
talked about
on
the
the
floor.
mic. Yeah, his floor is if he can't cut a promo. Okay, well the guy is an absolute superstar in the ring. He has a mystique, an aura about him, a look.
And then you hand him
He's so
Taz.
different in AEW, and there's so much talent on this roster, but there are so few big men that command a presence and attention quite like Wardlow. He's just he got a special look and vibe to him that makes him stand out in a whole different way.
You're right.
So I understand maybe your concerns with him and cutting promos. There's a lot of big name guys on this roster that aren't the best promo guys in the business. I mean, let's just be transparent. There's a lot of like Jungle Boy is a guy that they believe in. Sammy Guevara, we just saw as our former TNT champion. Just because you're not a promo isn't your strong suit doesn't mean that it's going to prohibit you from breaking through.
Yeah.
And I think Wardlow checks. He has so many things going for him that. And who knows? Well, and working with MJF like he has, who knows? He might be able to cut a killer promo. The guy's incredibly intelligent.
When he has talked, it's not like he's sounded like he has no idea what he's doing.
Good point.
When he has talked, he's done a fine job. He hasn't gone out and had a 20-minute promo with CM Punk, but he's not going to do that. That's not going to be his thing.
It's never going to be his character.
Yeah, it's not going to be his character.
Not many can do that anyways.
Exactly. And so far, I think that he's done nothing to tell me that he can't do that.
You're right.
So I think that once we get to see it, it'll be awesome and interesting. And Wardlow's going to be a big name in 2022. Even if his breakout isn't as big as we expect, he'll still be breaking out, in my opinion. So
AEW seems invested in them, putting him on, 4 Dynamites in a row, even though it is squash matches. I'm all for that because, I've timed it. They're each like a little over a minute long, and in the crowd is
25, basically all of them.
Salivating over what he's been doing, and I am too. And so I'm all for it. I was trying to find the graphic of we did the draft in July, but I'm trying to find the graphic of last year's predictions of breakouts because we did Ricky Starks. Who picked Ricky? Do we remember
last year?
Or I don't even think we had individual picks. I think you just kind of cumulative.
Yeah,
was it me? We had Ricky, Thunder, and Wardlow.
I don't remember last year's awards show at all. It's been a long COVID year, man. Do we have the graphic?
I thought that SPD. I thought you picked Thunder, Bonds picked Ricky, and I picked Wardlow, but I can't remember 100%.
So I know here
I picked Ricky
I have some
in
of
the
the
draft.
I have some of the So top face SPD Darby, believe it or not, Crayfish Cody Rhodes. Bonds Darby. So back to back for Darby.
Wow.
Go
top
Darbs.
Top heel, clean sweep MJF. Commentary person of the year, Thunder Rosa. We're
gonna answer that one, and then I want to talk about best move too, because that was a good question earlier on too. And then we'll wrap it up.
I'm going through top female athlete of 2021. SPD and Crayfish picked Britt, and then Bonds picked Sheeta. Top male athlete of 2020 was SPD Cody Rhodes, and then Crayfish and Bonds Moxley.
Wait a second. Wait. Bonds picked Sheeta as the top female athlete of last year, and all the crap that he got on our show for Sheeta, and he picked Sheeta as the top. I'm sorry. My mind just got totally blown right there. Go ahead, SPD. Sorry.
Breakout Star 2022. I picked Brody Lee, Orange Cassidy, Crayfish.
2021. Yeah.
2020.
Okay.
The Breakout Star of 2020.
Of 2020. Yes.
Yeah. And Bonds and Darby Allin. Top mic work, Crayfish. You and I picked Eddie Kingston, which he was fantastic. Bonds, Taz. Top tag team, I picked Kenny Omega and Hangman, Crayfish and Bonds, Young Bucks once again, back-to-back champs for Young Bucks.
Wow.
Top match of 2020, I picked Cody Rhodes and Wardlow in the steel cage match. Crayfish, Kenny Omega versus Pac, which obviously was the 30-minute Iron Man match, was fantastic. And then Bonds, you picked the Young Bucks versus Omega and Hangman for the title.
Great pick.
So yeah, those are some of the awards for 2020. But
great picks.
Let's go into some of the questions in the chat.
All right,
commentary.
Top commentary. Yeah, I mean,
to me, Excalibur. That guy is the backbone of the booth. His knowledge is second to none. He is just the workhorse. I mean, nothing against the whole commentary team, whichever way, whatever blend you pick, whether it be Taz, Ricky Starks, throw in Jericho, obviously JR, Tony Schiavone. I think that Excalibur is the most consistent, and I think he brings so much to the mic. He helps sell the matches so well with his knowledge and history. Especially what really was the turning point with me with him was when he with that women's tournament over in Japan. To me, I did not know a lot about those Japanese wrestlers, but when he was just marathon announcing,
he
those
was
matches,
a marathon man. You're right.
Yes, and he was giving me the history and making it feel that much more meaningful. I've always been an Excalibur fan, but that was, to me, was the turning point.
What about you, Bonds?
I mirror SPD, or I mirror SPD, not mirror him.
Miro,
that'd be terrible.
Damn.
I'm gonna
You're gonna
throw you down.
Game over.
I'm gonna game over him. But Excalibur wears so many hats, man, and he does it so well. And like, again, he's one of those guys. I value consistency in commentary.
Yeah.
And he's always consistent. He's always top notch. You know, the guy just is. He's the guy. He's the mainstay that you know is going to do his job and do it perfectly every time. When there's constant changes in AEW's commentary team, whether it's due to health reasons or COVID or anything else, just changing it up. You know, having a guest commentator on, like, he always just rolls with it, and it's always smooth and great. And that's what I appreciate about commentary. And he sells the matches so well, and I just love it, man. Excalibur's great.
Yeah, you can't really say anything bad about Excalibur. Great play-by-play, great knowledge of the business,
everything,
great work ethic, and he doesn't overpower the booth. He allows his peers to have a voice and stand out. I really struggled between two. The first is JR, and I know that's controversial because I know JR has had some pretty controversial moments where he's had his flubs and his mistakes that have happened over the course of his time here in AEW. But
no one's perfect.
Yeah, I easily overlook those because I feel like JR, not only does he hit the nostalgia level on just makes me, he is the voice of pro wrestling for me, my childhood, and I love what he does. But when he's on his game, when he's really into a match or into a performer, he has a way of making somebody. He has a way of making the match or making that performer. He elevates them, and we just got done talking about Wardlow. I love I love seeing JR have a commentary on Wardlow, but I was debating between JR and my ultimate pick. I'm picking Taz.
I've always been a huge Taz fan on the mic. The guy, his energy and his accent, and just like he's very knowledgeable and smooth as well.
Yeah.
And he's always got like some kind of like rib or extra little oomph that he put in there as well. But CM Punk put it best as well. Yesterday, giving props where props are due, and like I think absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like we did miss JR a little bit, but all aside, all the WWE things he said on AEW, whatever, like, that's one of those, like, looking for the arrows to throw. I've always loved hearing him call matches. Always.
That's yes.
And so
he's the best of all time.
True. And, there are a couple more questions. This is, I think, easily Aubrey Edwards is.
Oh, she's so good.
She's
so good. I've been such a huge. She's made refs more meaningful and actually like given refs personality, not only because of unrestricted, but not only because of like one of the only female refs out there, but not only female, male aside, her personality in the ring, like
she just comes off as an intelligent
ref that much, but with her in the ring, you're focused on her sometimes because she's like over the top and so good at what she does. Like as a referee, like we think it's, as an average fan, some people are like, oh, it's just a referee, but no, like they're the marshal of they're keeping the match, they're the lungs, they're keeping it breathing and moving, all fluidly. So Aubrey is just incredible.
Yeah. I think it's a clean sweep from our team. Right? All right.
Yeah, easy.
So let's talk about move of the year. Your top finishing move. The best move of the year. What? This is a really tough one.
It is.
For me.
Do you have anybody here on the team have a clear pick?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Kenny Omega, the one-winged angel, best finisher in wrestling.
One of the most protected. You're right.
One of the most protected, and Kenny, everything Kenny does looks so fluid and awesome. And honestly, looking back at him in hindsight, knowing that he wrestled with 2 injured shoulders and vertigo, the fact that he could do what he can do so clean every time just makes you wonder how that guy's a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's
phenomenal.
He's amazing, and we can't wait for him to get healthy and come back. We miss you, Kenny. It's going to be a long time without you, but it's going to be awesome when you're back.
SPD, do you have a pick?
Oh man, that side headlock that MJF did on.
Yeah, he's good, man.
No, I have to give honorary
Sacco.
mention to the tornado DDT. No, I think that Fuego got over so well. Like, talk about honorary mention of being Fuego, just being, working his butt off and getting rewarded. But move of the year, I mean, one of the top finishers, it has to be the combo of the Falcon Arrow into the Pox finisher. It's the
Falcon Arrow. He does a Falcon Arrow into a brutalizer.
Brutalizer. Yes.
You're talking about. Oh, no. Yeah, Falcon Arrow. No, that's not. No, it's not. It's off the top rope. That the Falcon Arrow is like a modified. Suplex.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What's his? Bobby Fish did that.
Yeah.
So,
but
Pox
that combo finish of his is phenomenal. We got a chance to talk to my guy. My pick is about, and I'm not gonna be ashamed. Like, dude, Brian Cage, the drill claw. I think that's so sick. I think that move is so sick.
Get Brian back on TV, please.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love Brian Cage. And getting a chance to talk to him, that was one of my favorite. Obviously, I loved Lucha Underground, and I love being able to talk to him about his history and that, and then leading into Impact and all that stuff. But just pure athleticism, that guy blows my mind. He's just such a freak. He's so strong and so athletic, and I love his. We talk about over and over again. Black Arrow into the brutalizer. Thank you for that, Scoot. It was not at the tip of our tongues.
I know.
The power that he has. It's the control of his strength, and that's what we talked about with Brian. Sometimes he talks about like how that move is the Steiner screwdriver. That move is scary sometimes to perform because you do it wrong, you can end someone's career, and then so he's modified it at times. But when he drops that drill claw, bro, I still get like the heebie-jeebies. It's one of those it's like, damn, man, that is so impressive. That guy's offense is still one of my favorites in AEW. Just his sheer power.
When you can walk, I don't care if you're a crash test dummy like Darby Allin or someone as big as Lance Archer. He was walking Darby Allin up the stairs. Like, I can lift my, I pride myself in going to the gym a lot and trying to be strong, but lifting up my wife and holding her, it's difficult at times, even though she's lightweight, but to control someone and let alone walk up a set of stairs, it was someone in suplex position. What he did in that cinematic match, and then catching people and then in midair and then lifting them up. Like, there isn't, like you said, talking to him and on our interview was fantastic. There isn't anyone that I know has better control safely than Brian Cage that I've seen as of late, in terms of like the more intricate moves that require so much strength.
Agreed. Totally agree. Love that. And we had a lot of people flooding in. Great comments. The coffin drop's a huge one. Brian mentioned the coffin drop onto Ethan Page through a coffin, which was
so cool.
But you mentioned Ethan Page. I love the Ego's Edge. I'm a sucker for Razor Ramon. It's one of my favorites growing up. I love the Ego's Edge. I think he does a great job on that. Really awesome. The buckshot lariat with our current world champion. The buckshot lariat is a sweet
another
move,
super protected
really badass.
Move. Yeah,
very protected. Great.
I'm all for protected moves. I like that. Like, so many times we have
kickouts
in big matches, where we get, that long or where people kick out of the finishers, you got to do it like 5 times, like the crossroads, like you're doing it 3 in a row to make it, put away your opponent. With nothing wrong with that, but I do like a protected move where it's like one and done. No one's kicking out of this. No one's kicking out of the one winged angel. No one's kicking out of the buckshot lariat. No one, I don't think, is kicked out of the Judas effect. Certain things like that. Like I really like that. No one's grabbed the rope or anything with Miro's finisher either. The game over.
Right, like the game over is up there too. I mean, that's
protected finishers. There's something about it. Totally agree. In an era of false finishes, it's nice to see certain moves. Not be the nail in the coffin, so to speak. Be the finisher, right?
For sure. This has been a lot of fun. Like, so as we're talking through and seeing people's, seeing your guys' picks, it's like, oh my gosh, man, what a year, man. 2022 is going to be an even bigger and better year. It's going to be so much fun. But one last question I want to ask you guys: who do you think, at this point was the biggest signing of 2021 for AEW? At this point, we know things, if we revisit this question next year's award show, things would change. But who are you most? It doesn't necessarily have to be like what the majority thing is. Like, who is your favorite signing of 2021 so far as they've panned out in AEW?
This will surprise both of you guys, but I'm gonna say Bryan Danielson. As a CM Punk slappy, man, like Danielson has been absolute money. He's been him turning heel was shocking. It was one of the most welcome things in AEW this year, though. He's been on fire for weeks, and we knew he was gonna come out running, man. Like, he hit the ground running in AEW, and we knew that. But he's had 2, title match. Well, one was a non-title match, but he took Kenny to the limit, and they had a draw. And then Hangman, he had a draw with Hangman, and they're setting that up as the first, world title match in 2022. Bryan Danielson, and he's just been so epic. And I feel like if this is his curtain call, like the end of the final chapter of his career, he's that it's starting off awesome, man.
That's true.
And while I think that there's been a lot of awesome, fantastic signings this year, Bryan Danielson's impact has just been echoing through the whole company, and he's just going after everything he wants, man. And it's different and unique. He never had this kind of character in WWE. He's very different now. And I love that. Just really cool stuff.
Well, for me, I struggled with a couple because throughout the year I was hammering. I do believe that although he's not the big name of a Christian Cage or a Bryan Danielson or a CM Punk, I love Ethan Page.
I knew you were going.
I love Ethan Page. I love what he brings to the table. I think he's got so much upside.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't say here's my pick. My pick is Brian, as Brian said, Thunder Rosa is my pick.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget Thunder Rosa.
The official stamp, well deserved on your birthday. Happy birthday! That was well deserved.
I mean, that to me, she's one of my favorite superstars in all pro wrestling. She's changed the game for AEW,
as we say, the landscape.
I would be saying that. I would be saying that if she was here or not. That's my thing. Is I think that all my picks, obviously, I lean pretty heavily into my love for the Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker feud. My favorite feud in pro wrestling this year.
I mean, it's no secret. Early on,
changed the game for me, dude.
This time last year, we were campaigning heavily on our social media for making Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker the first women main event of AEW. We were pushing it nonstop every single week. Main event, give them what they deserve. Give it what they deserve. Main event, main event, main event. And so, like, they ultimately got it. We can say we had a little help in that, I guess, because we're consistently consistent. But regardless, it's a win-win for everyone on that front as well. But you're right. I mean, this is nothing. This is the same narrative that we've had for months and almost a year of that feud period. And you haven't changed your mindset or narrative at all, Crayfish, with the women's division of who you think is the cream of the cream of the top of that, and who really sets the bar, who sharpens their iron with each other as well. To me, for my favorite signing, obviously, Jericho and Danielson are on my Mount Rushmore of men's Mount Rushmore.
True.
But
being there live at All Out for him to debut, that was pretty sick.
And I wasn't not gonna lie, like that end of All Out had a slight tear in my eye of excitement because of how amazing that show was.
I was standing next to you. You did.
We did not take. We were tailgating from 12 o'clock on. We met some great new friends out there. We were one of the first people in the parking lot tailgating nonstop. Right there, right at the entrance,
playing theme songs all day.
Playing theme songs, playing cornhole or whatever. I don't even remember. It was just a great time.
Drinking water.
But we were there. We didn't take one bathroom break the whole show because we were so excited. Like I was like, "You're like, do you want a beer?" I'm like, "No, I just want to watch." I'm like on the edge of my seat. We're like watching this whole thing. But to me, because I have not had that NXT, I haven't had that pre-AEW fan base or watching. But I think my favorite signing so far is Adam Cole, baby! All about the budge. And I think a lot of it also does have to do with his work in BTE, his character work in the ring, being featured nonstop. Like I'm loving what he's been doing on it as well.
SPD is somebody who wasn't familiar with Adam Cole before he signed with AEW. Like, do you think that the hype that we were all feeling about him signing, do you think that he's lived up to that? Because I think that that's a lot of people on social media are like, "Oh, well, what's Adam Cole doing?" It's like, are you paying attention? Are you watching the show?
That's an odd.
What are you
comment.
talking about? You see that all the time.
Yeah,
it's the
I don't know what
thing.
to expect of Adam Cole because I have not watched. I never watched his run in NXT.
I understand,
only
but I guess what
I'm
asking
the lens of you guys,
right?
Yeah.
But what I'm asking is like, do you understand the hype? Does it like feel natural? Like, okay, like this guy is the real deal. He's the man.
This guy is the man.
Yeah,
I think just the way he walks, you can tell he's got the swagger. He's got the confidence, and what we're seeing in his undefeated streak so far, and what he's been doing with the Super Click and now the Undisputed, quote unquote. I think like he works so well in AEW's landscape of not traditional big men in the ring.
He's not amongst giants.
I'm loving it. I'm loving Adam Cole, baby.
It's awesome.
I'm all for a sucker for a good theme song. I'm a sucker for like, any kind of gestures to sing along with, obviously like the Judas and then the Yes movement, the Daniel Bryan's time and all that stuff. So I'm a big sucker for that. That helps me really like get involved and invested in the character when you have like that more the total packages.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like it. And I mean, Adam Cole, certainly, I mean, I don't know how, if you're watching the product, I don't know how you can't see like he's being featured in a big way. I understand that the feud with the best friends, best friends are not top tier guys right now. They haven't been presented as top tier guys in 2021. A lot of it had to do with Trent's injury. I mean, Trent, we've all talked about, is the workhorse of that crew and really gets them going. He's the engine that keeps them going. But I mean, what's going on with the drama that's about to go down between, Adam Cole, the Bucks, and his boys Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. The drama circulating around those guys is fascinating stuff in the current landscape of AEW. It's a storyline that I think is going to get us really hooked as we turn the calendar over to 2022. Great pick about Adam Cole. Guy still has a lot of big matches ahead of him. So I understand where you're coming from with that pick. That's not bad.
And we forgot.
I'm shocked that Malachi Black, man, mine
that's
are great.
So many people. That just shows how many awesome talents.
Andrade, CM Punk. I mean, there's so.
I mean, it's hard not to mention
names.
CM Punk. Like CM Punk obviously is in a tier in and of itself. but we all have our own personal preferences. Like I
Yeah.
love CM Punk. I mark out for him every single time. I think he's doing everything 100% everything right, and he's a perfect ambassador for AEW. I know I thought this was gonna be the last question, but really quick.
All right,
As
last
we're
really
wrapping
last
things up,
question.
This is a pretty cool one. Really quick. If you had to, without overthinking it, name all your champions for the end of let's 365 fast forward to next year. Who are your champions? Who is your tag team champions? Who is your world champion? Who is your women's champion? Who is your TBS women's champion? And who is your TNT champion?
All right. Bonds,
Anyone
you
got
go
one?
Or you want me to?
I know this is off the
man.
cuff, like quick.
All right,
Okay.
I'll give you some time, Bonds. I can do it.
I
can
can't.
do it.
I'm good. I can go.
Oh, go do it then.
Okay,
do it.
so tag champs are going to be the Acclaimed. World champion is going to be Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I think TNT champion could be Darby again. I think that's a good belt for him. Women's champion, I think she's in our chat right now. TBS champ, that's tough. Maybe Jamie Hayter. I think that she could have a nice run pretty soon. I'd like that. What am I missing?
TNT.
Yeah, that was Darby.
Women's champ, you
Thunder.
Thunder. I think you named them all.
TBS tag.
Good. Okay.
World, women's, TBS, tag, and
That's it.
there's
That's it.
four.
BTE.
Yeah. All right. My answers.
Colt
Women's
Cabana.
women's champion. I think Thunder Rosa should be the women's champion.
Just put a check next to my name too.
All right. So all three clean sweep. TBS champion. I think Ruby Soho is going to get a run with that belt, but this time next year, do I see her as the champ? I think maybe Jade will win soon. No, I think Jade will win soonest. I'll throw it out there. I think Ruby might have a long run with the title, so I'll put her as TBS champ.
Okay.
The tag team. Bonds, I was smiling as soon as you said that the Acclaimed. I'm all
Ray
for
loves
it.
the Acclaimed.
All for it. All for the Acclaimed.
Facts.
As the
Everyone
tag.
loves them.
And then the world champ. I know MJF's a great pick, man, but I'd love to see my guy Pac get a run, dude. I would love.
Now, do you think that he will be, or do you want him to be?
All right, I probably that's more of a want. I do
think he should be. I think he'd be a great world champ.
Here's the thing, too. Like people forget, like he has history with Hangman.
True.
He has a lot of history with Hangman. He has history with Kenny. He's been presented as a main eventer when healthy and when not stopped. Yeah, when not stopped by COVID. So would be all for that being Pac being that guy. But if I have to go with the obvious choice, then I guess maybe I'll go with MJF. I think he's probably the most obvious guy to hold on to that belt.
Do you think he supersedes the TNT title? Like, do you think that he's not going to be one of those guys who has like, I wouldn't consider the TNT title a transitional belt, but it's kind of like the test belt. You know, can he do it? Do you think he's going to just immediately be the world champ when he wins a title?
Well, I mean, and that plays off of some of the stuff he talked about with Wardlow. It's a good question. Pretty platinum. He could. I think that I don't think that MJF needs a stop on the way to the world championship. I think that MJF with a TNT title would be interesting just because I want to see MJF with a belt.
Yeah,
so
right.
I personally think that he could leapfrog the TNT title and move straight to the world championship and we wouldn't bat an eye. So
this is I mean, it's hard not to overthink it, especially you guys overthink. You guys are very analytical on your side.
I was quick.
But
both of us were quick.
surprised.
Bonds and I were both pretty quick. So.
There's one, I agree with obviously Thunder Rosa as the women's champion makes the most sense and would be great. I think to opposite side of that, the TBS, I would love to see Serena Deeb heel.
Oh, that's a great pick.
So I think with
Great
that,
pick.
you have to kind of have. I mean, we
Heel
had
and
all
face.
heel champs for a while.
You're right.
And then so Serena
Deeb is
Deeb on
killing
the
it
one
right now.
side, and then so when Jade wins, and then someone dethrones Jade, and then then ultimately Deeb dethrones that baby face. I think for the TNT championship, I feel like if they were gonna capitalize on Hook, they'd need to do it sooner than later. So I think the tide would ride high for a while on that. But it would be fun to get like a young star such as Dante with the TNT Championship belt to do more an open championship, something like that. I think that would be cool to kind of give that belt something kind of like that kind of vibe. World title MJF, I think would be great to keep your homegrown stars growing, especially someone like him. After a Wardlow turn, tag team champs would. If I wasn't proud, then I wouldn't be powerful. Santana and Ortiz will be the next tag team champs this time next year in 2022.
I love it.
I mean, Santana and Ortiz are a team that so many people out there have been begging for them to get a title run. So I love the idea. Those guys are long overdue for a nice run with the belts. Totally agree. Great show tonight, guys. I told you when we started this show, this is the type of show that I love going through with you guys. We're just chatting, just getting an opportunity to talk about and reflect on some of our favorites, some of the things that really stood out to us. So really, really good show tonight, fellas. Look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be awesome, man. 2022 is right around the corner, fellas.
Right around the corner, guys. It'll be 2022 next time we all chat, man. Really appreciate the support we got in the chat, all the fans and the people who support us.
Everybody
really appreciate you guys. You're awesome. Special thanks to Mike Magnum and for his amazing conversation that he had with us tonight. Really, if you missed that, you're catching the tail end. Go check that out. And again, huge thank you to Thunder Rosa for hanging out with us in the chat. Really appreciate that. Getting an opportunity to not only interview Thunder, but then meet her and spend some time with her when we were at All Out. Cannot say enough how much we love her as a human being outside of the business. She's just got somebody who's really easy to root for, and she has fans for life with the Dukes. So really appreciate you guys all sticking with us. Great show, fellas. SPD, thanks for running through hoops to make it work for you and your traveling schedule. Hope it was as enjoyable for you as it was for me. Look forward to talking to you guys next week.
I know. And
next year.
See you guys next year.
We're approaching our 1-year anniversary with Thunder Rosa, so we would love to have you back on the show because a lot's happened in this 1 year time since we interviewed you in January. But you guys, Happy New Year, happy holidays, safe Happy New Year, and make sure you guys watch Rampage tomorrow. It's an awesome card. We won't be doing a Rampage rundown, but tune in to AEW. We know you guys are going to be tuning in, and we'll see you very soon. You know it's all about the boo.
It's all about the budge.
It is all about